Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is story about what if Naruto uses Chakra Scalpel part 1. Before I start, please do support for more amazing content and comments for part 2. Do consider to subscribe my channel and share my video to your friends and check out the description as well. Let's start the video. Crack. Aya. A young child screamed in pain as his kneecap was snapped. The drunken civilian lifted his boot from the boy's leg with a grin. Come on, demon. Fight back. Give me the satisfaction of killing you, he shouted before raising his leg again, kicking the blond boy in the chest. The small child slid across the ground in pain, his back hitting the wall of the alleyway painfully as his head started bleeding from the impact. The drunkard took a step closer before the moonlight cast a shadow over him. He looked up to see two ninjas on the rooftops above his head. Shit, he said before turning and running away. The two ninjas dropped down, showing a scowl as they looked at the whimpering child. Pathetic, to think this is the thing that killed so many of our comrades, the taller one said as he squatted down and lifted the boy into a sitting position by his hair. The moonlight hitting the tears on his face, the other ninja nodded. Naruto Uzumaki, I hate that we have to stop them from repaying him, he agreed as they looked down at the small blonde in disgust. The first ninja glanced up at his comrade before looking around, seeing that there was nobody around. What I don't get is where the hell his protection is. Ain't he meant to have an ANBU looking after him at all times? The first ninja asked his friend as he let go of Naruto, beginning to feel outwards with his chakra to sense any nearby ANBU. The second ninja nodded before looking down at Naruto, who began to have some clarity in his eyes as he looked up at them. The kid's starting to focus, he said as the first ninja finished his scan. His protection ain't here, the first ninja said as he glanced at his comrade, making eye contact with him as they shared a slightly dark smirk. The blond boy looked up through the blood and tears that streaked down his face. And a ninja-san? He requested softly. The second ninja pulled out a kunai. Looks like we arrived just in time to witness some drunk civilian cutting up the demon, he said. The first ninja turned to Naruto and threw a few shuriken, embedding them in his stomach and arm as the boy shouted weakly in pain, a hack. Naruto coughed as he fell down to his side again. The first ninja began to form a genjutsu around the area as the second ninja took the few steps towards Naruto and grabbed the boy by the collar of his shirt, slamming him into the wall with one hand as he pulled back his kunai. Itachi dropped to the roof of a nearby building and fell to his knees. Ka-san, Tu-san, I'm so sorry, Itachi thought as tears fell from his eyes. He glanced over his shoulder as he remembered knocking out his younger brother. And you, Sasuke, you've seen so much blood on this night. I'm so sorry, he thought as he pulled himself to his shaky feet, taking deep breaths to try and calm his emotions. Not a second later, a chakra signature moved over him. Genjutsu? In the Carnival District? Itachi asked himself as he looked to his side, activating his Sharingan as he looked around. Taking a few steps, Itachi looked down into the alleyway to see Naruto Uzumaki, his charge, be slammed into the wall. His eyes widened as time seemed to slow down, the Chunin's kunai moving towards Naruto's head. No. I refuse to let any more innocent blood be spilt tonight. Not if I can stop it, Itachi thought as he dove down towards the attacker. Naruto's eyes came into focus as he watched the kunai moving towards his eye. I'm done, Naruto said as the blade stabbed into his eye. Just as the blade stabbed through to the anterior chamber of his left eye, a black blur slammed into the ninja attacking him, ripping the kunai away and pulling not only his eye with it, but a slice of flesh from Naruto's nose, causing the blond boy to fall back to the ground, screaming once more in pain. Itachi's elbow slammed the ninja's head into the wall, knocking him out in the simple movement before he turned towards the ninja casting the genjutsu, who only was just beginning to turn towards him anyway. Unforgivable, Itachi thought as he channeled all of his anger and sadness from the night into a single fist. Itachi charged at nearly untraceable speed towards the ninja, punching the back of his head with nothing but pure emotion. The ninja shot out of the alleyway, slamming through the glass window of a shop across the street. Itachi turned back to Naruto, his head clearer as he went into mission mode. Punctured lung and stomach, blade to his arm but not lethal. Both knees broken, right wrist broken and his eye, Itachi thought as he looked over Naruto, his mind racing to find a way to heal the boy. In 7 seconds he had all the information that he needed in his head. The minor medical ninjutsu I have can keep him alive for some time, up to 4 hours. I cannot be seen in the village as of 5 minutes ago. The hospital in the village will gladly let him die. I need a better medic outside the village. Tsunade Senju is currently leaving the village on her way to Tsunbaki town. That is 3 hours away and she left 4 hours ago. I need to get him to Tsunbaki and then find her. I have 3 hours and 59 minutes left. His brain told him as it gave him all the information that ANBU had on Tsunade's current location. Before another thought crossed his mind, Itachi was sprinting through the village, healing at first the minor wounds to ensure Naruto had enough blood to stay alive. Naruto wheezed once more in pain as he looked up to Itachi's face. Weasel-san, he thought before passing out. 2 hours and 41 minutes later, Itachi slid to a stop atop the tallest building in Tsumbaki town, Chakra Signatures. He thought as he blinked on his Sharingan, breathing heavily as he was running low on chakra. Looking around the town, he could only see 3 developed chakra signatures, but they were all in different sections of the village. He placed Naruto down on the rooftop softly before forming a single hand seal, Shadow Clone Jutsu. He announced as he summoned 3 shadow clones, bringing his chakra level down to the last tenth of his reserves as they sprinted off towards each ninja while Itachi popped a soldier pill. Itachi deactivated his Sharingan as he looked down at Naruto, activating the simple medical jutsu as he focused on the wrist wound, having already healed his arm and knees to the best of his ability. Not long now, hold on Naruto. Itachi thought as he felt the bones begin to move into place, albeit much slower than he thought they would. Itachi blinked as the thoughts of his first clone sunk into his head. Not her, but her assistant. That's good. Shizen-chan's coming this way. He thought as the last thought was of Shizen looking up towards the building he was on with a frightened look. The second clone was destroyed, giving its memories to Itachi. Damn, a hunter ninja so soon, he thought as the last thought was of some Inuzuka drilling into the clone's chest. Just as the third clone's memories were received, Shizen landed on the rooftop. Itachi-kun? What's going on? She shouted as she came to a stop. Looking up, Itachi spoke for the first time since he taunted Sasuke, his throat coarse and dry from his night so far. Help him, please. He begged, taking a deep breath between his words. Shizen felt her heart break at the pain in his voice, but she indeed took his words seriously. In a few moments she had gone over each of the wounds Itachi had healed, fixing them slightly before she moved on to his torso and eye. These wounds are too much, Itachi-kun. I might be able to fix his stomach, but I have no idea what to do for his lungs and eye, she admitted as she looked at him sadly. Itachi slumped almost in defeat before hearing another set of footsteps hit the roof before suddenly Itachi was pushed out of the way. He turned back to see Tsunade's green glowing hand over the 2 holes on Naruto's stomach. Itachi, if you want me to put an eye in here, I need it now, she said as the shuriken popped out of Naruto's chest. Itachi was silent before he remembered something he had. Itachi formed a hand seal, summoning a black crow that landed on Naruto's shin. Thank you, but I need it back now, Itachi said to the crow. The crow nodded before it seemed to fall into feathers, leaving nothing but an eye in Itachi's outstretched hand. Tsunade glanced over and her eyes widened. What? A Sharingan? She asked as Naruto's torso wounds closed up and she moved up to his eye, tilting his head to the side to let the blood clear out from the wound. Itachi nodded. Naruto, you owe me one for saving your life. Itachi thought before holding the eye to Tsunade. Please keep my brother in line, save him from the torment I have forced upon him. Itachi thought as he spoke shakily. Yes, please help him, Itachi said, his voice becoming stronger as the soldier pill began to kick in while she took the eye. Feeling the approaching chakra signatures, Itachi stood and turned. Don't say anything please, just save him, Itachi said as he pulled out his sword. Not a moment later, some Inuzuka and 3 masked hunter nins landed on the roof. Itachi Uchiha, come with us or you will be killed on sight, some shouted. Tsunade kept her focus on healing Naruto as Shizen looked down confused. Itachi's face took a blank expression as he began walking towards the hunter squad. My name is Itachi Uchiha. I killed my clan and tried to take Naruto Uzumaki. I wanted his demon's power to grow ever stronger, he said as he held his sword high, but now he's dead. And so will you be, he said before charging forward. The hunter squad moved into position to try and capture Itachi just as some led the attack. Getsuga, she and Kuramaru shouted, attacking Itachi in a cyclone of claws and fangs. Itachi's Sharingan sparked to life as he timed his movements perfectly, moving between the two and landing a shallow cut along Tsum's spine, taking a glancing hit to the back thanks to Kuramaru. The group of ninjas paused as Tsum fell out of her attack, giving Itachi the needed opening to escape. He glanced back, making eye contact with Tsunade and Shizen, both of whom were confused but focused as he tried to make them hear his thoughts. Please, look after Naruto, he thought before leaping off of the building. One of the ninjas threw a handful of shuriken at Itachi, but as they hit him, the Uchiha man turned into a murder of crows, spreading out and disappearing into the night. Tsum glanced up, after him, she shouted as she got to her feet, glancing back at Tsunade and Shizen. Are you two okay? She asked, not recognizing them in the night light. Tsunade nodded before looking down. Just get the bastard who hurt this poor boy, she shouted. Some scoffed at being ordered by a civilian before she chased after her team and after Itachi. The rooftop was silent as Tsunade continued her surgery, implanting the Sharingan Itachi gave her into the empty socket of Naruto's eye. Shizen merely sat in silence, confused and hurt by the actions that had taken place. It was nearly sunrise when Tsunade finally leant away from Naruto. So this boy's name is Naruto Uzumaki, Tsunade said as she looked down at his closed eyes. The boy with the 9 tails and now a Sharingan, she said before standing and turning away. Let's go, Shizen, she said before beginning to walk towards the side of the roof. Shizen looked after her master in shock before looking down at Naruto. I am not leaving him, Shizen said before picking Naruto up in her arms, holding his small 6-year-old body against her own like he was but a toddler. Tsunade glanced over her shoulder. I wanted to distance myself from that damn village, but I guess she's right. I can't let a kid fend for himself out here, Tsunade thought before looking away. Fine, let's get a move on, Shizen, she said before dropping off of the rooftop. Shizen adjusted Naruto until he was on her back in a piggyback position. Don't worry, Naruto-chan, I won't let Itachi-kun's sacrifice go to waste, she said as she held him tight and began to follow after her master. Fire style, Grand Fireball Jutsu, Itachi shouted as his attack hit the water of the river he leapt over. The water was instantly superheated, raising a burning steam that would bring any person to an incapacitated state while covering their view of him, forcing his pursuers to stop lest they be boiled by the heat. Itachi quickly formed a few hand seals, using the very last of his extra reserves of chakra to make a ninjutsu, earth style, hiding like a mole technique, he said to himself before he disappeared into the ground. Itachi closed his eyes and sat still as he rested, feeling through the earth his pursuers run right past his location and continue running a few minutes later. Now I have time to rest, he thought to himself as he took a deep breath, glancing up to the tiny air hole above him as the sunlight began to hit it. Sasuke, Naruto, be safe, both of you, Itachi thought before closing his eyes once more and relaxing. 2 days later. The midday sun danced across Naruto's locks as he began to stir. He slowly opened his eyes as he looked around in a daze. Am I alive? He thought weakly before reaching his hand up to his eye, his last memory being the pain he felt as it was ripped out. Feeling a bandage over it, he sighed. Hospital, he thought as his other eye began to clear up, seeing a blurry shape sitting next to his bed. He took a few minutes, but as Naruto sat up, he reached out and placed a hand on the sleeping woman's shoulder. Excuse me, Naruto said in a soft yet rough voice. Miss? He asked nervously as he shook her shoulder slightly. Shizen stirred slowly, looking up to see Naruto awake. The moment the realization registered, she shot to her feet. Naruto-chan, she exclaimed before fussing over him like a sibling or parent. Naruto just sat silently in shock as Shizen hugged and looked over his body, confused and feeling drained after whatever happened. Naruto began to come out of his shock before he pushed Shizen off of him. Where am I? Who are you? He asked, feeling scared. Shizen realized she may have been overwhelming the boy, so she leant back as she answered his questions. We're in a hotel room in Sunbaki Town, Naruto. My name is Shizen Namikaze. Do you remember how you got here? She asked softly. Naruto shook his head. I remember being hurt, he said, resting his hand on his stomach, finding that there wasn't a single scratch on him. Shizen nodded. A friend of mine brought you to me and my master so that we could heal you. You're fine now, but there has been a small change to your body. Mainly your eye, Shizen said, gesturing to her own left eye. Naruto reached up and placed a hand over the bandages, remembering a ghost of the pain he felt as it was ripped from his skull. So, I still got 2 eyes? He asked, relaxing a bit more as he was beginning to feel more comfortable around Shizen. Shizen smiled softly and nodded. Yep, do you want to come with me to get some breakfast? Tsunade-sama went to the Hidden Leaf village last night to see what exactly caused all of this, and she said she'll be back sometime around lunch today. Shizen asked. Naruto felt a rumble in his stomach. Thanks, but I don't think they'll get me anything, he said softly before looking to the side. Naruto, we're not in Konoha anymore. These people have no idea who you are, Shizen said as she stood, holding her hand out to the young child. Trust me, we'll be able to have a meal in peace, she said with a kind smile. Naruto was quiet for a moment before taking Shizen's hand, smiling brightly at the human contact as the brunette led him out of the room and through the hotel. His smile didn't dim at all as the two of them walked through the small town peacefully. Tsunade stormed out of the village, shoving a random Konoha jonin out of her way as she marched from the gates with anger flowing through her veins. I never should have trusted this stupid village, she thought as she began to tree-hop back to her niece-in-law and Naruto, her mind sinking back into thought over what she had heard during the meeting. Flashback. Tsunade had arrived in the village just as the Shinobi Council came out of session. As they were all leaving the chambers, Tsunade concealed herself in the shadows so that she could wait for the third Hokage. But after everyone had left and 5 minutes had passed, Tsunade was left scowling as the old man never came out. Tsunade stepped into view before opening the chambers, ready to shout out to the old man until she saw him. He lay with his face down on the desk of the Hokage's seat, his hat discarded to the floor as he sobbed silently, his shaking breath being the only sound echoing around the room. Tsunade walked towards him, the clacking of her heels causing him to look up before he cleared his throat, ignoring the tears that flowed from his eyes as he tried to talk calmly. "Tsunade, you're back here again so soon?" he asked. The Senju woman merely ignored him as she leapt over the first 2 rows of tables to land on the one next to him. "Yeah, why are you crying, Sarutobi-sensei?" Tsunade asked with a worried frown. The third Hokage tried to hold his emotions back as he spoke. "Minato trusted me to look after his son and the boy. I've been informed that Itachi killed him after the massacre," he said before looking down. "Why would he do that?" "Naruto had nothing to do with," he said before trailing off and shaking his head as more tears began to flow from his eyes. Tsunade raised a brow. "The kid isn't dead. Itachi brought him to Shizen and I as we split up for dinner the other night," Tsunade said simply. Hiruzen looked up at her with wide hopeful eyes, his gaze shaking as his mind worked at full speed. Tsunade had no idea how he had even come to the idea, but his next words seemed as sure as can be. "Tsunade-chan, I need you to keep this a secret, keep him out of the village," Hiruzen said as he stood. Tsunade raised a brow. "Huh? I thought you'd want him back? This is his home after all," she asked as the third was wiping the tears from his face. He shook his head as he pulled his arm back to his side. "This village was a hell for him. I always thought that the people here would forget their sorrows. I never thought they would blame him for it, but seeing as Itachi sought to bring him to you, he always knew what was right," Hiruzen said as he looked down at his Kage robes. "It should be Itachi in these, not me," he said. Tsunade gasped at the old man's words. "He believes in Itachi that much?" she thought as Hiruzen bowed low. "Tsunade, please care for Naruto. Bring him back when he's strong enough to protect himself, but until then, please make sure he's safe," he begged her, tears of shame falling from his eyes and onto the floor. Just then, the two heard the door moving as it slowly opened. So Tsunade stepped up to her old sensei and hugged him tightly, whispering in his ear to keep their conversation secret. "Yes, okay? I'll do it. I'll try to bring him back at some time. You know how to contact me," she said softly. Hokage-sama?" the Chunin asked. Tsunade stepped back from the Hokage, who hid his tear-stricken face by kneeling and dusting off his hat. "Yes, Kurenai?" he replied. The Chunin stepped all the way into the room and bowed. "The civilians are throwing a street party over Naruto's death. I want to stop it," she said with a frown. Tsunade's eyes widened. They really wanted him dead? The boy who's been the savior and sacrifice of the village, and Tsunade's thoughts trailed off as she couldn't seem to wrap her head around the idea of hating such a feeble child. Hiruzen nodded before glancing to Tsunade. "Please take care of it on your way out," he asked softly before disappearing in a shunshin. Tsunade nodded before leaping over to Kurenai. "Show me then," Tsunade ordered as she was led outside. Flashback end. Tsunade shook her head before looking behind her, seeing the small amount of smoke that had occurred when she brought down the stage that the main party had been happening on. "How dare they do this? He's just a misunderstood child," she shouted in her mind before she used her perfect chakra control to launch herself farther and faster than most ninja wished they could. Shizen smiled as she carried the bandaged Naruto on her back. The blonde was laughing even though they weren't doing anything spectacularly fun. To her it seemed he was just happy to be with someone that enjoyed being with him. "What do you want to do, Naruto-chan?" Shizen asked. Naruto blinked widely as his laughing came to a pause. I don't know," he said with a grin. Shizen couldn't help but grin over her shoulder at him. "Well, how about the playground? Look, there are other kids there," she said with a nod towards the playground off to their left. Naruto glanced at the playground before seeing an empty swing set. "Okay, but can you come with me?" he asked timidly. Shizen was curious about his sudden timidness, so as she put him down she asked him, "Why are you so shy, Naruto?" "You don't need me to have fun," she said. Naruto quickly grabbed her hand, not wanting to let go of her as he spoke quietly. "I want to go on that," he said, pointing to the swing. Shizen nodded. "Then let's go," she said before jogging slowly, causing Naruto to start smiling and laughing again as he ran just to keep up with her. She put him on the swing and they began to play as Shizen noticed something. He's not swinging properly, like he's never been on one before. she thought as she realized that Naruto very well might not have ever had a chance to play like this. Shizen. Naruto and Shizen glanced off to the side to see Tsunade walk from the trees with a smile on her face. Naruto didn't know who she was, so he was suddenly feeling nervous even though Shizen definitely wasn't. Tsunade-sama. You're back! Shizen exclaimed as she began pushing Naruto softer. Tsunade came to a stop leaning against the pole of the swing set, watching with a soft smile as Naruto looked at her curiously with his one visible eye. Yeah, I am. Listen, I need to talk to Naruto for a moment, Tsunade said seriously. Naruto felt nervous under the gaze of Tsunade, and even more so when Shizen nodded and stepped off to the side to give them some privacy. Naruto watched as Tsunade replaced Shizen, pushing him slowly on the swing as she began talking. What's the last thing you remember before waking up? Tsunade asked. Naruto glanced over his shoulder at her before answering quietly. My eye was ripped out, he answered timidly. Tsunade nodded. Were they ninjas or civilians who did it? She asked. Naruto stayed looking forward this time as he answered, ninjas, I think. They had green jackets on like the older ninjas, but they didn't look that old. Tsunade nodded. So, they were probably Chunin, she thought before pushing Naruto again as she talked. The third Hokage asked me to look after you until I think you're ready to go back to the village. The only requirement was that you be strong enough to defend yourself. Okay? Tsunade asked. Naruto looked over his shoulder at Tsunade. You mean, I can stay with Shizen-chan and you? He asked hopefully. Tsunade smiled and nodded. Yeah, sure. But what about getting stronger? Do you know what I mean? She asked. Naruto blinked widely. Am I going to be a ninja? Like Weasel-san? Naruto asked. Tsunade raised a brow. He did know Itachi. It seems like he looks up to the man as well. She thought before nodding, sort of. I'm going to teach you a little differently to how he was taught, she said with a slight smirk. Naruto tilted his head. But lady, how can you teach me? Are you a ninja too? He asked. Tsunade nodded. Not just any ninja, I'm the best medical ninja alive at the moment, Tsunade said proudly. Naruto's eyes widened as he turned to Tsunade, who caught the chains of the swing to make sure it didn't swing dangerously. Ah, really? Naruto asked excitedly. Tsunade grinned at Naruto's excitement. Yes, really. Naruto jumped off the swing and cheered. Yay! I want to be a mega cool ninja too, he shouted before running over and telling Shizen the news. Tsunade blinked before she facepalmed. Not mega cool ninja, medical ninja, she thought as she ground her teeth in frustration. She looked over to Naruto and Shizen to see the blonde boy thrust a hand up into the air, but she gasped as she saw something unexpected. In Naruto's shadow, she could have sworn that for a moment, she saw Dan smiling at Naruto, holding an NBU mask out towards the boy before the image faded. Tsunade blinked as she watched Naruto's happy smile. Maybe I guess I can put my faith in one more person, she thought with a soft smile before walking over to the duo. 4 years later. Boom. Shizen covered her eyes from the dust that blew her way. She kept her eyes covered until she heard Taunton speak up. Oink. Shizen looked up and smiled at what she was beginning to see. As the dust settled, a 10-year-old Naruto was shown standing in a crater nearly the size of a cart, his fist resting against the bottom of the crater as he stood. He turned towards the clapping from Tsunade, who was grinning. Looks like you finally got the control down, Naruto-chan. How are you feeling chakra-wise? Tsunade asked. Naruto looked up to Tsunade, his blonde hair blowing slightly in the wind as his red three-tomoed Sharingan eye glowed with confidence, the only sign that it wasn't his being the scar that led from it to the bridge of his nose. Absolutely fine as always, Ka-san. My chakra is constantly replenishing at the same rate that this thing uses it, remember? He asked as he gestured towards the eye. Tsunade bopped him on the head as she walked past. I'm the one who told you that, dummy. Now come on. Since we can surely say that you've mastered all that I can teach you when it comes to control, it's time for you to learn the basics of ninjutsu, Tsunade said as she kept walking over to Shizen. Naruto followed her as the dust completely settled, showing off his outfit. Naruto wore gray skinny jeans made from a type of elastic denim so that his movements weren't limited. For a shirt, he had a simple gray singlet top with 2 stripes running down the right side on the front, and over the top of his singlet, he wore a jacket much like his mother's. The only difference other than the size being that the kanji on her back while Naruto's held the Senju clan seal in the center of an orange circle. Naruto nodded with a grin. Sounds good, Ka-san. Will Nei-chan be teaching me this time? Naruto asked hopefully. Tsunade's eyebrow twitched as she spun to face Naruto. How come you always ask Shizen to teach you when it's something that she's already mastered, huh? Tsunade said while shaking her fist. Naruto grinned, "'Cause Nei-chan is more patient with me when I can't get it right, ha ha ha," Naruto said, beginning to laugh as he leapt into a hug with Tsunade. Since he was still tiny, his head didn't even reach her chest, and as such he basically disappeared from her line of sight every time he hugged her, other than the blonde patch of hair sticking backwards. Yeah, you go get taught all that academy stuff then," she said before walking towards the nearby town. Shizen smiled as Naruto sat down in front of her. "Tsunade-sama, what should I teach him?" Shizen asked. Tsunade shrugged. "The basics, I guess, the 3 passing ninjutsu, some medical ninjutsu, oh yeah, and your taijutsu style. But remember Naruto-chan, once you've learned it with the Sharingan you need to master it, okay?" Tsunade said over her shoulder before raising her arm and waving. "See you guys for dinner," Tsunade shouted as she left the area. Naruto grinned up at his sister. "Nei-chan, these are the things that involve hand signs, right? 'Cause I memorized them all like you said," Naruto said as he began moving his hands through the motions to demonstrate. Shizen smiled and watched as he went through all of the basic 12 seals, finally ending with Tiger. "Very good, Naruto, now I'm going to teach you a basic skill, the substitution jutsu," Shizen said with a smile before diving into her explanation and demonstration. 2 years later. "Ninja art, mystical fast healing jutsu," Naruto said to himself as he healed the scrape along his knee in a matter of seconds. He looked up to Tsunade and grinned. "Got that down pat. So what are we learning now, Ka-san?" Naruto asked cheerily, trying to get Tsunade to lighten up. Over the past few days, Tsunade had been living with a permanent frown on her face ever since she received a letter from some bird which had landed on Naruto's head. Naruto had become a very attentive person thanks to Tsunade and Shizen's lessons on analysis of not only injury, but anyone who would walk past. Because of this, he easily figured out that the letter was from someone from the Hidden Leaf Village, which probably meant one thing. They had to go back soon. With a heavy sigh, Tsunade pulled the letter out from her cleavage, tossing it to Naruto. "Tell me what you think. Either way, I'm not leaving you by yourself, so tell me what you want to do and we'll do it," Tsunade said as she sat on the grass next to the blonde as he unfolded the letter. "Hello again, Tsunade. I think it's time. After 6 years he's at the appropriate age to take the genin exam. If he's at that level yet, I would like for him to come back and take the exams with the rookie year. I hope all is well. Have you heard from Itachi? Please reply to him this time. I want to know about Naruto. What can I expect?" From Hiruzen Sarutobi, the 3rd Hokage. Naruto glanced up at his mother and smiled. "I think that I want to go back. I have to face them, right, Ka-san?" Naruto asked. Tsunade's frown line faded from her forehead as her eyes took a worried expression. "Are you sure? After what they did to you," Tsunade said softly as she hugged him to her side. Naruto smirked and nodded, glancing up at her with his Sharingan. "I can handle it, especially since we both know that I can learn more there." Since he felt Tsunade's hand squeeze his shoulder tightly. They got scrolls and stuff there," Naruto said, quickly changing his sentence so that he wouldn't get smacked. Tsunade smirked. "Alright, well, you know where we are, right?" she said as she stood up. Naruto stood with her. "We just left Kantoria's city, so we're back in the land of fire again, right?" Naruto asked as he straightened his jacket. Tsunade nodded. "Yes, we are, and since we went through the last city, I thought I'd teach you a little something special on the journey back," Tsunade said as she gestured towards herself. Naruto raised a brow. "What is it, Mom?" he asked as they began walking towards the split path that led towards Konoha. Tsunade chuckled. "You know that morning you found me and I looked older? You remember what I told you about the genjutsu?" Tsunade asked. Naruto nodded with a frown. "But I don't need to look younger, Mom," Naruto said. Tsunade nodded. "I know that, but as we've said before, they think you're dead, Naruto. We have to keep it that way," she explained. Naruto looked up at Tsunade. "But what can we do?" he asked. Tsunade smirked. "Well, if you're comfortable with everyone thinking that you're my son, I have a plan." She spoke down to Naruto. The blonde boy looked up at his mom and grinned. "Awesome!" he shouted happily. Tsunade smiled and looked ahead. "Oh, Shizen," Tsunade said as she spotted her assistant waiting out the front of the hotel they were going to get lunch at. Naruto looked forward and grinned as he began to run. "Nekein!" Naruto shouted as he leapt into a hug. Tsunade watched the two smiling and hugging before she glanced down the road. "So this is it, guess we're going back," she thought before sighing. "Looks like Konoha's gonna get a few new medics." "Alright, settle down." Naruto came to a pause at the door. New town, new me, new class. He thought, taking a deep breath before placing his hand on the door as he heard the noise quieten down inside. "I can do this." he thought to himself before opening the door. The class lost the last of its noise as everyone turned to look at the person who entered the door. Naruto bowed to the sensei of the class. "Hi, my name is Naruto Senju. The Hokage told me to come here for some exam?" Naruto asked with a smile as he stood tall again. Iruka looked over the new boy. Naruto looked almost the same except for the implementation of Tsunade's genjutsu. His hair was now a lighter blonde that matched Tsunade's. His whisker marks were invisible, and other than the scar reaching to his nose, his left eye seemed perfectly normal. It took a few seconds for Iruka's mind to register Naruto's name. "Wait, Senju?" he asked. Naruto nodded as he smiled. "Yeah, you may have heard of my Ka-san, Tsunade Senju?" Naruto offered. And suddenly, everyone was in an uproar. Naruto blocked his ears from the shouting of questions heading his way. "Quiet down!" Iruka's voice screamed out as his head suddenly became massive. The class went quiet as Iruka turned to Naruto. "All right, Naruto, there's a seat up at the back. You're a couple of days early for the actual exam, but we have the skill analysis tests today and tomorrow if you feel up for taking them," Iruka said with a smile at Naruto's polite attitude. Naruto nodded before walking up to the chair. "Got it, sensei," Naruto said as he fell into the chair. Iruka smirked as he added Naruto's name to the bottom of his clipboard. "All right, class, what do we want to revise today? Sparring and ninja tools or intelligence and jutsu theory?" he asked the class. "Sparring." Outside. The class was filled with multiple shouts of the children wanting to go out and train, so much so that Naruto's eyes were wide at the amount of noise. "I thought ninjas were supposed to be quiet," he thought before seeing about 4 or 5 people sitting calmly. "Well, at least some of them get it." Iruka nodded. "All right, everyone head out to the second training field and start stretching. I'll be out in a moment and set up the sparring partners," Iruka said before walking out of the room. Naruto stood along with the majority of the class. He just followed after the guy in front of him until they were walking through the hallway. "Naruto Senju." Naruto glanced to his left to see a boy in a large green coat and shades walking by his side. The boy seemed to be the tallest in the class, but realistically that was the only outstanding feature the boy had. "Yeah, who are you?" Naruto asked. The boy nodded. "I am called Shino Aburame. I was curious as to what skill set you possess," Shino said calmly. Naruto blinked as he nodded. "Well, my mom trained me like she was trained, but I have gotten a few other skills thanks to my adopted Nei-chan." "What about you?" Naruto asked. Shino nodded. "It is rare to find a medic nin so young. As I am of the Aburame, I am primarily tracking and assassination ninja. I hope we work on a mission together at some point in the future," Shino said with a nod before stepping ahead and holding the door for Naruto. Naruto smiled. "I do too, thanks Shino," Naruto said as he walked outside. Looking around the area where the students were gathered, Naruto watched with interest as over half of the girls in the class fawned over some guy who was doing warm-up stretches. Naruto rolled his eyes before noticing some students stretching together, so Naruto strolled over to join them. Naruto came to a stop behind the only girl in the group. "Hi, do you guys mind if I join ya?" Naruto asked. The girl looked up at Naruto and blushed before looking ahead, but the boy resting near her shrugged. "No need to ask, just take a seat. I'm Shikamaru, by the way," Shikamaru said with a casual wave. Naruto nodded and took a seat between Shikamaru and other kid. This one had a dog sitting on his head. "Hey, I'm Kiba Inuzuka. Is your mom really Tsunade?" he asked. Naruto nodded. "Yeah, why is that such a big deal?" Naruto asked, genuinely curious. Kiba scoffed. "You're kidding, right? She's one of the Sannin, the strongest kunoichi in the world," Kiba exclaimed. Naruto raised a brow. "Really? She's just my mom," Naruto said, not really getting why it was that special. Before he could be questioned more, Iruka came out of the building along with another teacher. "All right, when I call out your names I want you to come here for your sparring match. First up we need to find where the new student ranks in the class." "Naruto," Iruka said with a smile, "who do you want to fight?" Iruka asked. Naruto stood but was frowning as he walked over to the sparring circle. "I personally don't want to fight anyone, but mom always said I should push myself," so Naruto hesitated as he looked around the area. "I dunno, one of the top 5 of the class I guess?" The class laughed, causing Naruto to look around with a slight frown. "What's so funny?" he asked. "You shouldn't be overconfident, you have no idea how good we are," some blonde girl shouted at Naruto. Naruto shrugged. "And you shouldn't underestimate me. Anyways, who should I spar with?" Naruto asked Iruka. Iruka looked around the class before seeing something he hadn't seen in years. Sasuke was watching Naruto with an interested look in his eyes, the most emotion that Sasuke had shown in years since the incident with his clan. How about the top of the class? Iruka offered. While most of the class was about to make a fuss, Sasuke immediately stood up and marched to the sparring circle. Naruto looked Sasuke up and down as Sasuke did the same. Naruto Senju, right? Sasuke asked. Naruto nodded with a smile. And you are? Naruto asked while offering a hand to Sasuke. Usually Sasuke would knock off the handshake, but seeing as Naruto was from a major clan, Sasuke decided to take the offer. Sasuke Uchiha. Sasuke said. Naruto's left eye twitched. Uchiha, so this is Itachi's younger brother, Naruto thought as the two of them stepped back from each other. Iruka waved his arm. Alright, you two ready? Iruka asked. The two boys nodded instantly. Begin. Begin. The fight began with Sasuke charging towards Naruto in the second stance of the intercepting fist style taught to all Uchiha. He swung a testing punch at Naruto. The blonde was taking the spar seriously since he had no idea of his opponent's skill level, so he did the first maneuver that was part of his secondary fighting style, taught to him by Shizen. Naruto ducked the first fist before stepping to the side of the other, his Sharingan making it extremely easy to avoid Sasuke's attack. Naruto kept dodging until Sasuke kicked at Naruto's chest. The blonde crafted his chakra like Shizen taught him, forming an invisible chakra scalpel around his hand as he leant back, dodging the kick as he barely tapped the back of Sasuke's knee. Naruto rolled backwards, coming up in a defensive stance as he assumed Sasuke would have dodged the attack. Aha! Sasuke shouted in pain as the back of his knee opened up, causing him to fall to the ground shouting in pain. Many of the students of the class began screaming in shock or fear as Naruto's eyes widened. What the hell? Why didn't he dodge it? Naruto thought as Iruka turned to run inside and get the academy medic. As the people crowded around Sasuke's screaming form, Naruto could only stare in shock as Shino came up behind him. I am curious as to why you do not heal him. At this moment it would be the wisest thing to do for the sake of your peace of mind, Shino said. Naruto nodded, shaken from his shock thanks to Shino. You're right, I got this, Naruto said before running into the group of people, pushing them out of the way until he came to a stop by Sasuke's side. Though Naruto had read all the books and been taught all the techniques, this was still only the second person, other than himself, that he had worked on and as such, took a few seconds more than may have been necessary to form the hand seals, ninja art, mystical palm healing jutsu. Naruto shouted. The class went quiet and the screaming stopped as Naruto's green chakra wrapped around Sasuke's leg and began to stitch it all up. Not even a minute later, the wound was fully healed. Everyone, including Sasuke, stared in awe at the lack of wound as Naruto casually wiped the blood away with the back of his hand. Iruka and the medic ran out just as Naruto nodded to himself. There you go, not even a scar. Sorry I took you seriously, I really thought you would have dodged it like a normal ninja, Naruto said with an apologetic shrug, not meaning anything rude by what he said even though he mistakenly sounded like that. The fangirls were too stunned to defend Sasuke as their supposed knight in shining armor was just thoroughly beaten and healed with only one hand. The academy medic jogged the last few steps before dropping to Sasuke's side, running his slightly green glowing hand along Sasuke's leg. What? It's almost as if he never had the injury at all, the medic exclaimed. Naruto frowned. Yeah, I know, sorry I couldn't just replace the muscles. I'm not as good as Mom yet. But at least I put all of his muscles and tendons back together, Naruto said with a shrug, thinking that the medic was saying his medical jutsu wasn't up to par. In the meantime, Sasuke was glaring at Naruto with confusion, trying to be angry but too intrigued by the blonde's power to do so. So the moment the medic pulled away, Sasuke tried to stand and found that he could with no problem. Senju. What was that? Sasuke demanded. Naruto chuckled at Sasuke, thinking that he was being overly dramatic. It was nothing, just formed a single chakra scalpel around my hand, you know, the kind that all medics use, Naruto explained. The academy medic just stared at Naruto. The chakra scalpel? But that's only taught to Jonin medics. I don't even know it yet, the medic shouted in shock, causing the whole class to gasp at Naruto's abilities. Naruto nodded. Really? I had no idea, Naruto mumbled as he looked off in thought, wondering why Shizen had taught him the technique. Iruka cleared his throat, getting the attention of the class before he began speaking. Well, considering Sasuke was on the ground screaming for nearly a minute, and then his opponent was the one to heal him, I'd say that Naruto was the winner of the first round, Iruka said, grabbing Naruto's arm and holding it up in victory. The class was mostly quiet until one Sasuke fangirl broke the silence. That's okay, Sasuke-kun. Go make an awesome comeback!" she shouted, spurring the other fangirls to start cheering again as Iruka led Naruto and Sasuke back to their starting positions. Sasuke took a deep breath before focusing on the match at hand. "This time, I'm going all out from the beginning," he thought, moving into the fourth stance of the intercepting fist. Naruto frowned slightly as Iruka signaled to get ready. Note to self, no more jutsu against supposed comrades, he thought as he decided to instead live up to his mother's reputation. As Iruka dropped his hand, signaling for the fight to begin, Naruto slid into a wide stance, the near opposite of the stance he was in previously. "Begin," Iruka announced. This time, Sasuke and Naruto ran at each other from the start. Sasuke feigned a low kick before kicking up at Naruto's chin the moment they got close. Naruto blocked the feint before taking the second kick to his guard, knocking him back a step as he channeled his chakra down his arm. Naruto dropped under Sasuke's next punch and threw one in return, only for Sasuke to dodge it by rolling inside Naruto's guard, throwing another kick at Naruto's chest. The blonde lifted his own knee, blocking the kick before he kicked out, separating the two of them with the reflective maneuver. Sasuke immediately ran in again as Naruto closed his right eye, using his hidden Sharingan to perfectly time his movements. "Okay," Naruto thought as he sent his chakra down to his middle finger. Sasuke threw a punch. 1. Naruto thought as he stepped back with the punch, guiding it past him and throwing Sasuke off balance. 2. Naruto pulled Sasuke's outstretched arm, moving Sasuke past him and forcing the Uchiha to focus purely on stopping his momentum so that he didn't leave the ring. And Naruto thought as Sasuke finally gained his bearings and began to turn around just in time to see Naruto's finger ready to flick his forehead. 3. Boom. The simple flick launched Sasuke out of the ring and into the teacher from another class, who stood nearly 100 meters away at the target practice range. Naruto grinned as he leant over, dusting the dirt from his knee while he spoke. "He, I win, Iruka-sensei," Naruto exclaimed as he turned back to the class. Iruka sighed as the class went into another uproar. "Alright, that's enough. If any of you get out of control once more, then no more sparring today. Got it?" Iruka said. The class went mostly quiet until a pink-haired girl shouted out, "But Iruka-sensei, that Naruto guy is cheating somehow. There's no way he could beat Sasuke-kun," she shrieked, making some of the students closest to her cover their ears, though soon after most of the girls were shouting that Naruto was cheating. Iruka's brow twitched before he exploded, his intimidating big head technique kicking into gear as he towered over the whole class. "That's it. Everyone but Naruto inside right this second, or I'll cancel the exams this year," Iruka shouted while pointing towards the main building. In less than a minute, the class had ran inside while the academy medic finished up with looking over Sasuke and taking him inside, proclaiming the boy to be fine after a quick medical jutsu to get rid of the big red mark on his forehead. Feeling Sasuke's glare on the back of his head, Naruto sighed as he looked off towards the other class of students. "Oh man, I feel like I just broke some unspoken rule. Maybe it was a bad idea to spar with Sasuke," Naruto thought as Iruka came up to him and placed a hand on his shoulder. Naruto turned and looked up at Iruka. "Yes, sensei?" Naruto asked. Iruka smiled down at Naruto. "Firstly, congratulations on beating the top of the class. Secondly, you are obviously coming here purely for the qualification, right?" Iruka asked with a slight smirk. Naruto grinned up at Iruka. Yes, sure." Naruto agreed even though he honestly didn't know what Iruka meant. Iruka nodded. "Thought so. Can you do me a favor, Naruto?" Iruka asked. Naruto nodded, always happy to help someone in need. "Sure, no prob," he agreed. Iruka smiled again at Naruto's positive attitude. "You see, Sasuke was hurt by someone close to him a while ago, the result of which caused everyone he cared about to be taken away from him forever," Iruka began, causing Naruto to lose his cheery look as he thought about the pain Sasuke must have been going through. Because of that, Sasuke hasn't been interested in anything but power and getting stronger ever since so that he can get revenge. "But today I saw something that I haven't seen since the incident," Iruka said, causing Naruto to tilt his head in interest as he thought over what the favor could possibly be. After a few seconds of silence, Iruka knelt down to Naruto's eye level. "When you walked in the room, I saw a spark of interest in his eye, and since you're literally the first person in the academy that has beaten him, you are most definitely on his radar now. The favor I want to ask of you, Naruto," Iruka said, taking a deep breath as he thought over his words, "could you try to befriend Sasuke?" Iruka asked seriously. Naruto nodded, outwardly appearing understanding and happy while on the inside I wonder why Sensei is acting like the sun shines out of Sasuke's butt, he thought as his curiosity to learn got the better of him. What's so special about him other than suffering through some pain when he was younger? Was it more pain than I can fathom? Does he just express it bad? Naruto thought as he continued nodding, more intrigued and analyzing Sasuke's potential medical problems. Iruka smiled genuinely. Thanks Naruto, let's go inside now, he said before ushering Naruto through the doors in front of them and leading him back to the classroom. Hey Sasuke, Naruto said with a grin as he sat down opposite the Uchiha boy in the academy cafeteria. Because of the earlier spar, Iruka thought it prudent to have the rest of the lesson on ninjutsu and genjutsu theory. It had led towards an early lunch break since no one was paying enough attention to take in anything anyway. It was at this point that Naruto decided he had some time to kill before Tsunade got there to talk to Iruka with him. Sasuke paused eating his apple and blinked in confusion as Naruto casually began to eat a sandwich his mom had made him. What do you want? Sasuke said with a glare. Many a fangirl watched on through the windows as most students went outside to eat. Though on days when Sasuke was moody, it was more than common to see at least 5 academy girls watching him through the windows. Naruto opened his mouth before suddenly realizing he had no idea what to say, so he just said whatever came out first. I want to train with you, Naruto said, grinning as he finally thought of something. Sasuke seemed to be sulking as he looked down. Why? You're obviously stronger than me. What could I possibly bring to your training? He asked. Naruto sighed. Hold on, I didn't say that right. Why don't you come train with me? Naruto reiterated before nodding to himself. Sasuke's brow furrowed. Why? He asked again. Naruto's brow twitched before dropping the kindness and just being himself. Look, I'm the last Senju, you're the last Uchiha. Between the two of us there will either be a rivalry which benefits no one, or we become freaking awesome together and fulfill all our goals. I'm gonna do the second one with or without you, but I'd much rather a comrade I can trust when I get to the top. Get me? Naruto said, looking Sasuke dead in the eyes and trying to use the subtle suggestion of his Sharingan to influence Sasuke's decision. Little did he know, but his words were exactly what Sasuke needed to kick into high gear. Sasuke roughly placed his apple down as he stood. So, you and me. The Senju and the Uchiha, Sasuke said with a smirk, as he imagined having the same power that Naruto had and maybe even recreating the most powerful tag team in history, Madara Uchiha and Hashirama Senju. Naruto grinned and nodded as he stood. Yep, the leaders of this generation. That's what they'll call us, Naruto said, holding his fist out to Sasuke. The Uchiha's smirk stayed in place as he bumped fists with Naruto. Sounds like a good start to me, Sasuke replied with a nod. Sasuke-kun. The Uchiha brow twitched and his smirk fell as Naruto glanced over Sasuke's shoulder. Who's she? Naruto asked. The pinkette ran over and went to hug Sasuke from behind, but as if he knew it was coming, Sasuke hopped up onto the table before flipping over her in a seamless maneuver that caused her to run straight into the chair and fall face first onto Sasuke's apple, crushing it with her large forehead. Naruto blinked in shock as Sasuke landed calmly facing the door. Trust me and ignore her, Naruto, Sasuke said as he walked from the room. Naruto blinked again in shock before moving to follow Sasuke, but it seemed the girl had found a new target, but not for love. Damn it, Naruto, why did you trip me? The pinkette screeched. Naruto jumped in shock. Ugh, sorry, but I didn't trip you, he said, trailing off since he didn't know her name. He raised a brow as the girl tried to physically attack him, tried meaning that she swung a punch and he sidestepped with such ease that it looked like she had missed on purpose. The girl nearly growled at Naruto as she got angrier, while all he could do was watch curiously as she just stood there threateningly. Does she have something to say? Do I leave now? He thought to himself before glancing at Sasuke for a hint of what to do. Don't ignore me! The pinkette screamed the moment he looked away before she swung a punch at him once more. Naruto stepped out of her way, bored of her weird attitude and not understanding that when she was like this most people would just stand there and let her hit them. So, he decided to end it. She threw her next punch. 1, 2, 3. Naruto thought as he moved through the steps, aiming his middle finger at her forehead. Flick boom asterisk. The girls at the window screamed as they jumped away from the glass, which only a second later, Sakura came flying through. Naruto smirked to himself before hearing the oddest sound he had ever encountered. Naruto glanced over to Sasuke's retreated form to see the Uchiha boy was chuckling slightly, but he appeared shocked that he was doing so. Naruto raised a brow as Sasuke suddenly stopped. Okawaii, that's a little weird. Who gets shocked at their own laughter? Naruto thought as he watched Sasuke continue leaving the room. Naruto blinked before shrugging and turning back to his sandwich, deciding that he should finish his food before heading out to find Iruka's office. The third Hokage sighed in annoyance. Why won't you give me a straight answer with this, Tsunade? Hiruzen asked as he rubbed his temples. Tsunade stood with a frown on her face as she leant against the wall, looking out the Hokage's window in the direction of the academy. I'm being honest, I don't know his strength level. I just know that he hasn't been able to beat me or Shizen yet. She explained for the 5th time. Hiruzen's frown stayed in place as he watched Tsunade. You really didn't train him in combat at all? He clarified. Tsunade sighed as she stared out the window still. I trained him in how to be a medic and my chakra strength. Shizen taught him the ninja requirements of the old system's Genin, and the rest he taught himself under her supervision from our technique scrolls, which were mostly medical arts anyway. The only ninja experience he's had in training against us, so I don't know how he managed going all out, she said, truly believing that Naruto didn't have any fighting experience in a real-world situation. Hiruzen stroked his beard. Well, I guess I'll talk to Irika before I finally see Naruto again. The third mumbled to himself with a small smile before smiling at Tsunade. I hope he still remembers his Gigi, he said to her with a smile. Tsunade smiled back. He does, sensei, don't you worry about that, she said, smiling alongside the old man. Sarutobi nodded before turning to some papers on his table. Okay, now, let's get down to business. I want you to join the Kage's guard. A Sanin's presence will. Fuck no. Hiruzen stared at Tsunade in shock since he had never heard her swear. Tsunade, he exclaimed. Tsunade rolled her eyes. You stated that Sanin status gives us the right to leave the village for business anytime I want, and if you try to get me to do things that I don't think are important, then I'm gonna use that right to leave, she said with a smirk. The old man blinked in slight shock at Tsunade's sudden dominance, his brain slowly rebooting as he tried to fathom that this strong Tsunade was the same woman who he held as she cried enough to drown a fish over Dan. He took a deep breath as he shook his head. Fine then, go do whatever you want. But I really wish you'd help the village while you're here, he said. Tsunade raised a brow. Did you think I'd just sit back and drink the whole time, old man? I have plans to make this place better already, Tsunade said with a slight smirk. Hiruzen looked at Tsunade expectantly. Really? Please do tell, he said. Tsunade chuckled as she walked over and took a seat in the chair facing Sarutobi's desk. I'm taking the first open position at the hospital, and I'm gonna work my way up through the hierarchy to become head medic again, and Shizen is going to join the medic corps of ANBU to bring them back up to tip-top shape, Tsunade explained, resting back into the chair. Hiruzen started tapping at the smoking pipe resting on his desk, contemplating the likelihood of either of Tsunade's events succeeding. Who am I kidding? Shizen is above Jonin level in medic skills, and the ANBU will help her refine her other ninja skills. Not to mention that Tsunade is literally the best medic alive. With the presence of one of the Sannin permanently rooted in the village, others are less likely to attack as well, he thought, his face slowly turning to a smile. He nodded as he looked at Tsunade once more. Sounds fine, but do me a favor? He asked. Since he had just given her the go-ahead, she agreed with a smile. Sure thing, what do you need, sensei? She asked. Just make it seem like I ordered everything that you do. It'll strengthen my grasp of control by making it look like I have you under my thumb, as well as take all the pressure off of you and onto me, he said as he opened his drawer to get what he needed to pack his pipe. Tsunade frowned and thought for a moment before thinking of a reason that Hiruzen would need to look like he is in control of the village, coming to a few reasons of her own. Hyuda's or Root? She asked, pretty certain that one of those groups was the reason Hiruzen's control was slipping. Hiruzen chuckled. Actually, the moment I announced you were returning the Hyuga clan back down, I do believe Hayashi still has a soft spot for you, Tsunade, he said as he lifted his pipe to his lips, the contents a distinguishing green and brown. Tsunade sighed. I still don't get why. I'm a decade older than him, and I've proven that I can stop his advances with force if need be, she said before directing a frown towards the old man's pipe. I thought you were planning to cut down smoking while working? She asked pointedly since she was the one who told him to slow down. Hiruzen pointed at the wall, giving Tsunade a few seconds to look over to the clock just before it struck 1300 hours. I'm on my lunch break, Hiruzen said before lighting his pipe and leaning back in his chair to relax. Tsunade rolled her eyes. Fine, is there anything else, sensei? I'm meant to be meeting Naruto for his lunch break at the academy as of 20 seconds ago, she said as she folded her arms, showing that she really wanted to leave. Hiruzen waved her off. That's all, Tsunade, go have fun with your son, he said, making air quotation marks with his fingers before taking a drag of his pipe. Tsunade stopped all movement as the air turned cold. She couldn't help the anger she felt when people, no matter who they were, questioned or poked at her relationship with the boy she truly cared for as a son. Sarutobi, you better not ruin what the three of us have, she said, unfolding her arms and placing one on the man's desk. The old man, who had to hold in a smoker's cough, blew out some smoke before looking up at Tsunade's overly threatening stance. I never expected Tsunade to open up this much again. I guess Naruto's charm still hasn't left him, he thought with a slight smile. Hiruzen nodded to himself, ignoring Tsunade's threatening pressure completely as he leant forward, looking up at her again. You, Shizen and Naruto are now the last remnants of 3 major clans, the Senju, Namikaze and Uzumaki. The safest option for all of you is to remain hidden together, the old man said, his own pressure beginning to drown hers out with seemingly little effort on his part. His soft gaze suddenly turned to a promising glare. There is absolutely no way I would do anything to threaten him. Not after all this, he said. Tsunade felt his words as if the promise was a physical force pressing down on her. She smiled, knowing her sensei would do everything to make sure they were okay. Dinner at my place, 8 o'clock. You coming? She asked as she walked over to the old man's windowpane. Sarutobi chuckled as he brought his pipe to his lips once more. Wouldn't miss it, Tsunade-chan, he said before lighting up. Tsunade nodded with a smirk before she leapt out into the air, forming a one-handed ram seal before she disappeared in a standard leaf shunshin. Iruka was staring down at his paperwork, his mind still stuck on Naruto and Sasuke's fight. Though Naruto was obviously the stronger of the two, there was a definite difference in the way they fought. Naruto's steps were like a well-practiced dance, he was in control the entire time, yet Sasuke's moves were perfected, each attack aimed at a vital point, he just wasn't even close to being fast enough. Naruto seemed to move like he was used to a far stronger opponent. Iruka thought before leaning back in his chair. He had enough time to go to his office and get a fresh coffee twice over during the first half of the lunch break, but he thought it better that he spend more time focusing on his students' paperwork and how best to help them pass their genin exams. Knock. Iruka glanced over at the doorway to see Naruto waving to him. Come on in, Naruto, how are you finding your first day? Iruka asked as he waved the boy over. Naruto smiled as he entered. It's okay, I guess. Has my mom come by? Naruto asked. Iruka raised a brow. Tsunade Senju? Here? I don't see why she. Iruka began before trailing off as he glanced over Naruto's shoulder. Naruto turned to see his mother confidently stride into the room. Ka-san. Naruto exclaimed with a grin. Tsunade ruffled Naruto's hair as she walked past before taking a seat opposite Iruka, leaning against the first row of desks. Hey Naruto-chan, she said before looking Iruka up and down. I don't know if you're qualified to teach my son. Tsunade commented, earning a scowl from Iruka. Oh great, she's just like those other selfish clansmen. I thought she'd know that you don't have to be from a noble clan to be a good ninja. Iruka thought in frustration, thinking that Tsunade was being clan discriminate. Iruka stood up. Excuse me, Tsunade-sama, but how would you know what my teaching abilities are without ever attending my classes? He asked calmly. Tsunade smirked at Iruka. Ah good, he can stand up for himself, she said as she held out a friendly handshake towards Iruka. Just wanted to see if you'll treat us any differently because of our clan status. Sorry if I offended you, she said with a grin. Iruka faltered at Tsunade's explanation. Oh, no apologies necessary, really, he said, accepting Tsunade's offered hand. I thought you were acting all high and mighty like the Hyuga do, questioning a non-clansman's abilities to teach and all. Tsunade sighed. Hyuga? She muttered to herself before leaning back against the table. Well, my apologies then. Sorry, but I am in a bit of a rush. What does Naruto need to know so that he can become a genin? She asked, placing a hand on her son's shoulder. Iruka looked down at his desk and slid a few papers around, grabbing a few which he passed to Tsunade one at a time. This is the practice test for the written portion. If he can cover these questions of basic ninja skills, then he should be good for the actual exam, cause the questions are along the same lines, Iruka said before holding out the next sheet. This is the qualifications necessary for physical prowess, stuff like accuracy with thrown weapons, personal speed, strength and chakra control, he continued before passing her the last sheet. And this is a list of the Academy-approved ninjutsu that he has to know all 3 core jutsu and gets extra credit for the other 2. Iruka explained. Tsunade was nodding along until she read the list of 5 techniques. Wait, they only have to know these moves? Clones? Damn. She muttered before frowning towards Naruto. Looks like we really will have to try to teach you a clone technique, she said as she showed the sheet to Naruto. The blonde scowled before seeing the extra credit ninjutsu. Oh. But Nei-chan is teaching me this one, Naruto said, pointing at the second technique. Tsunade nodded while Iruka's eyes widened at seeing the one Naruto pointed to, the storage seal. No one but maybe Shino and Sakura has had the focus to learn that, Iruka thought as Tsunade began talking. I know, Naruto. Also, medical chakra is an alternate chakra type, so you have the other criteria for the extra credit, but you still have to learn the clone technique, she explained. Naruto frowned. Oh man. He groaned. Iruka tilted his head in confusion. But you can do the chakra scalpel. How do you not have the control to do a clone jutsu when you can do that? He asked. Naruto just grinned and stayed quiet, knowing that Tsunade would handle it. Naruto-chan has gained the ability from his great-grandmother, Mito Uzumaki. You heard of her? Tsunade asked. Iruka nodded as he held his chin and thought, yeah, Mito Uzumaki or Mito Senju after she married the Lord first. Her chakra was too thick for most basic jutsu. Some people say that is the predecessor to what was beginning to spread as chakra-based bloodlines in the Uzumaki clan. Iruka said, basically quoting a history book he had literally memorized. Tsunade blinked at the information. Huh? Grandma's super chakra made bloodlines? Tsunade asked, wondering if it was the presence of the Kyuubi inside her that had made these so-called bloodlines. Iruka raised a brow, like the Uzumaki clan's chakra chains, or their chakra armor, or their chakra field sensory, or their chakra lock, or their chakra absorption. Iruka began listing before he trailed off, realizing that he was lecturing a Sannin. Tsunade tilted her head and thought, well, I guess I should check for any weird things in Naruto's chakra system later. Maybe he developed something that we haven't noticed yet, she thought as she glanced down at the confused-looking Naruto before turning to Iruka once again. So Naruto can't do normal clones cause of his thick chakra. It just can't squeeze into a small simple form. She explained, using the lie to cover up the fox's existence. Iruka nodded before looking at Naruto curiously. So, how are you able to do the transformation jutsu then? Iruka asked. Naruto grinned, already knowing how to answer this one. Oh. It's cause I spend the excess chakra on even the most minuscule of details that aren't really needed, like stitching in clothes, the veins of a person's eyeballs, yada yada. Naruto explained. Iruka held his chin as he nodded, very smart. Ding. Tsunade frowned as the academy bell went. Already? Damn. She said before focusing on Iruka. So what can we do? She asked. Iruka smiled in a friendly manner. He has to know a clone technique in accordance to the test. Doesn't specify what type. Iruka shared. Naruto raised a brow in confusion, while Tsunade nodded with a slight smirk. Alright. She said before crouching to be at Naruto's eye level. Okay, Naruto-chan, don't overestimate yourself here, alright? Apparently there are more than one clan heirs in this class, so they will probably be able to take you down without too much difficulty. But that's okay. She said while ruffling his hair. Naruto grinned at Tsunade. Okay, Mom. I'll be careful. He exclaimed happily as she stood tall again. Tsunade nodded to Iruka. Thanks, Iruka. I'll see you again some other time, yeah? She said dismissively as she began walking towards the door. Iruka nodded. Yes, Tsunade-sama. He agreed formally. Tsunade smirked to herself as she left the room. Okay, well, Shizen knows the water clone and I know the earth and shadow clones. If we find out his elemental affinity, then we may get lucky and end up giving him a little head start on his elemental training for Jonin. Let's see what happens. She thought as she turned the corner, narrowly avoiding a few of the members of Iruka's class. Tsunade frowned. These kids, they don't really move like real ninja. Well, at least not all of them. She thought in confusion before turning to leave once more. Naruto. The young Senju turned curiously before smiling. Hey Shino, what's up? Naruto asked. As Shino came to a stop next to Naruto, he glanced around, checking the area was clear before he spoke softly. I am aware you are under an extremely high-level transformation technique, or genjutsu that seems to be hiding only your face. The reason you do this is what exactly? Shino asked. Naruto's eyes widened. What? Shino, how do you know that? You can't know that. Naruto shouted, drawing the attention of many of the parents and children that were being picked up from the academy. Shino raised an eyebrow. He was about to speak when he felt a hand on his shoulder. Naruto and Shino both looked over the bug user's shoulder to see a man who looked and dressed very much like Shino. Father. Shino greeted. Shibi Abirame nodded in return. Son, he said before looking at Naruto, I now understand our dinner invitation. Naruto-san, I shall see you at another time. Shibi said before he and his son were gone in a shunshin. Naruto frowned. Oh man, how'd they know? Mom didn't say that anyone would be able to tell. Naruto thought unhappily before turning towards the gate. He grinned as he saw Shizen looking around. Hey Nei-chan. Naruto shouted as he waved. Shizen turned and grinned as Naruto ran up to her. Hey Naruto-kun, how was your first day? She asked. Naruto slid to a stop in front of her. It was okay, I guess. I think we have a problem with my identity being a secret and all though, he said quietly as he looked up with a slightly worried expression. Shizen's eyebrows shot up. Huh? Really? She asked. Naruto nodded. He hummed in agreement. Shizen frowned before seeing another child looking over at her and Naruto. Well, We should go see Tsunade-sama about that soon then. She said before seeing that the boy was still watching. Who's that boy watching us? She asked her little brother figure. Naruto turned with a curious look on his face before seeing Sasuke, watching with a hate-filled glare at the families that didn't notice him. His glare softened slightly as he saw Naruto waving him over. That's Sasuke. I guess you could say he's a friend? Naruto said, not really sure of his own words. Shizen smiled down at Naruto. He has a friend so soon? That's good, she thought before looking at the lonely boy approaching them. Maybe it would be a good idea to invite him to the dinner party tonight, she thought as Sasuke began to slow. Sasuke nodded to Naruto. Naruto. Sasuke mumbled before nodding to Shizen, not saying her name in welcome since he did not know it. Naruto, being his curious self, looked around in confusion. Who's come to pick you up? Naruto asked. Sasuke's eyes turned towards the ground as his glare came back full force. No one. Sasuke said simply. Shizen's eyes widened in recognition. He must be an orphan like Naruto-kun, she thought sadly before looking at Sasuke with a kind smile. Well, if that's so, Sasuke, would you like to come with us for a while? We've only got some training planned for the afternoon, but Naruto needs a sparring partner, Shizen said. Sasuke looked up at her, his glare gone as his expression seemed frozen in a mask of emotionless. He didn't say anything for a moment, but that was mainly because Naruto spoke quicker. Oh yeah. Can you help Sasuke learn the storage seals so that he can get extra credit? That way we'll both be top of the class, right? Naruto shouted happily. Shizen nodded as Sasuke looked at Naruto with widened eyes. He knows the extra credit material? Sasuke thought to himself in disbelief. Shizen raised a brow at Sasuke's expression. He thinks that's impressive? Geez, I thought they'd be trained better. Aren't they about to graduate to Genin? She thought to herself with a small frown. Well, let's get going then, Naruto exclaimed cheerily before running off. Sasuke watched Naruto start running with confusion before Shizen poked his forehead. Hey Sasuke-kun, pay attention and keep up, yeah? She said before sending chakra to her feet and jumping. Sasuke stared with wide eyes, stunned that the seemingly normal woman just jumped all the way to land perfectly next to Naruto, turning to sprint along with him. Wait! Sasuke shouted, causing many people to stare in shock as he sprinted after the two at full speed. Sasuke scowled from his place on his ass. This is impossible, he exclaimed angrily as he got to his feet shakily. Naruto looked down from his place in the tree nearby Sasuke, sitting in front of blank sheets of paper with an ink brush in hand. No, it's not. I can't believe you don't know this basic trick, Naruto said with a roll of his eyes. Sasuke scowled up at his new rival. What does this have to do with writing seals anyway? Sasuke asked angrily as he formed a ram seal to help focus his chakra. Smack. Sasuke dropped his hands in pain as he scowled up at Shizen, who poked his nose. Stop whining, I already explained that you need to be able to freely channel your chakra to focus it into the ink. No hand seals, Shizen explained. Sasuke sighed as he sent the chakra to his feet once more, slowly walking towards the tree as he put one foot on the tree. He easily lifted himself up on one foot before waiting for a few seconds and slowly placing down his right. After a few seconds of silence, Sasuke opened his eyes to see that he had stayed in contact with the tree. Instead of getting overexcited, Sasuke calmly breathed as he slowly began to walk up the tree. With one final brush stroke, Naruto finished his seal and smiled. Grabbing a kunai that he had stabbed into the wood next to him, he placed it over the seal. Placing one hand over the other, he held both palms over the kunai as he channeled his chakra. Seal, Naruto said. Poof. Naruto grinned as his weapon disappeared in a small cloud of smoke. He sat back and sighed in relaxation. Mission accomplished, he thought to himself in satisfaction before looking over to Sasuke. Naruto's eyes widened. Damn, he's getting it faster than I was, Naruto thought as he watched Sasuke walk slowly up the tree. Sasuke, stop! Shizen shouted up at him. Sasuke paused in his walk and opened his eyes. They widened considerably when he realized that he was about to step off the underside of the branch. I did it! Sasuke exclaimed in excitement as he relaxed the tiniest bit, his control good enough that he could stay easily enough. Shizen smiled as she waved. That was great, Sasuke. In less than 4 hours too, she exclaimed happily as Sasuke let his chakra disconnect. Flipping through the air, Sasuke landed feet first with ease in front of Shizen, though he was caught off guard from her next actions. Shizen picked Sasuke up in a hug just like she would Naruto, swinging him around by a tight grip on his head. I'm so proud of you, she shouted cheerily as she spun in circles. Naruto laughed as he picked up his seal, turning to slide off the branch as Sasuke was finally let go. Sasuke gasped for air as he leaned over to place his hands on his knees to rest. Shizen paused and blinked at Sasuke in confusion. Are you alright? She asked, not realizing she had been suffocating the academy student with her chest. Sasuke nodded, not saying anything else on the matter until he saw another pair of feet arrive. Well, I'm guessing we got a new trainee? Sasuke looked up only for his eyes to widen. Tsunade send you? He asked in quiet shock. Tsunade smirked. Yeah, kid? She asked, messing with him since she knew that her mere appearance usually sent people into shock. Sasuke just stared in shock. Gee, good evening, ma'am, Sasuke said as he moved into a formal bow. Tsunade nodded back to him. Good evening, little Uchiha, Tsunade said in a friendly manner as Naruto came to a stop at their side. Sasuke nodded as Shizen's eyes widened. This is the last Uchiha? He's just a boy, she thought in shock. Naruto held up the seal. Can you check my seal, Kasan? He asked cheerily. Tsunade ruffled the boy's hair with one hand as she took the seal, placing it in her hand as she sent her chakra through it. Poof. Tsunade and Shizen smiled as the kunai appeared with no trouble. Good work, Naruto-chan, Tsunade said as she ruffled her boy's hair. Sasuke watched the family interaction with tightness in his brow. Family, Sasuke thought sadly before looking off to the side. So Sasuke, Tsunade began, causing the boy to look up at her. What are you doing for dinner tonight? She asked as she walked over to the boy. Naruto raised a brow questioningly towards his sister figure. What's going on? Naruto whispered. Shizen knelt down next to Naruto. I didn't realize this kid was the last Uchiha, Naruto. Why didn't you tell me? She asked. Naruto raised a brow. Last? He asked as he looked over to Sasuke, adding that piece of information to his mental file on Sasuke. Shizen nodded, glancing over to Tsunade for a moment before kneeling in close to Naruto. Hey, listen, keep what I said just now quiet, alright? She asked. Naruto nodded, confusion covering his face as he smiled up at his sister. Okay, Nei-chan, but can someone explain it to me later? Naruto whispered back. Shizen smiled and nodded as she stood tall again. Yeah, I promise, she said as she began to lead Naruto over to Tsunade and Sasuke. Tsunade turned to Naruto with a smile. Hey Naruto-chan, Sasuke here is gonna join us for dinner tonight along with a few other people, so I want you on your best behavior, got it? She said as Naruto came to a stop next to her. He smiled to Sasuke before looking up at Tsunade once more. Sounds fun, mom, Naruto exclaimed cheerily. This sucks, Naruto grumbled as he pulled on the belt of his uncomfortable formal wear, trying to loosen it from its stranglehold around his waist. Sasuke chuckled, still in his academy clothes, though Tsunade had a plain white haori that he wore over his clothes. Deal with it, Sasuke replied. Boys, Tsunade called, waving for them to come inside the new Senju household. Naruto and Sasuke approached the house as Naruto looked over it again with a grin on his face. The new Senju house was a 2-story building connected to an indoor training area sitting under another apartment-like house. Naruto's room was in the private apartment section, which had its own bathroom, bedroom and lounge room connected to a balcony over the entryway. The house was within a few minutes walking distance to the Konoha arena and the clan houses of the Aburame and Hyuga. Naruto's grin faded to a happy smile as he hopped up the 2 steps onto the entryway. He and Sasuke kicked off their shoes to put on some house slippers, but other than that and their clothing there wasn't much else that seemed formal about the occasion. Walking inside, Sasuke got Naruto's attention and nodded to Tsunade, telling him to go up to her, which he did as he smiled up at Tsunade. Ka-san, we were wondering, who are the people that are coming over tonight? Naruto asked. Tsunade raised a brow before glancing at Shizen, who was helping a maid set the table for everyone. You didn't tell them? Tsunade asked. Shizen frowned at her. Sensei, you haven't told me, she grumbled. Tsunade blinked before scratching the back of her head sheepishly. Oh, well, tonight we're having a few guests, as you seem to have guessed. To start off, there's 2 classmates of yours, Hinata Hyuga and Shino Aburame, are attending along with their fathers, both of which are clan heads. Tsunade started as she led the boys over to the lounge room. Sasuke nodded as Naruto replied, Yeah mom, Shino's cool, but I'm not 100% sure I know who Hinata is, Naruto mumbled. Tsunade chuckled as she glanced at the table, thinking about the others who were attending. We also have the Hokage coming tonight, and last but not least, my old teammate Jiraiya, though he will be late, that is, if he makes it back tonight in the first place, Tsunade said with a small smile. Sasuke blinked olishly. 2 clan heads, 2 Sannin and the Hokage himself. I need to stay around all these people with power, Sasuke thought as he did his best to blend with the shadows in the corner of the room. Knock knock. Tsunade glanced over at the door before grabbing a long brown robe that she threw around her shoulders, adjusting it so that the Senju clan symbol was shown across her back, though she sighed as she realized that her massive chest wouldn't let her close the robe over her front. "Tsunade-sama?" The one maid they had asked, standing near the door already even though she had yet to receive the order. Tsunade blinked, remembering that everything in the house ran only on her orders now. Ugh, right. "Let them in, Tsubaki," Tsunade said before walking over to the lounge room, grabbing the shocked Sasuke and moving him to stand next to Naruto before she organized the two of them so that they were standing side by side in front of Shizen. Naruto and Sasuke shared a glance of discomfort at being shoved so close together, but they straightened up as Tsunade smiled politely to the first arrivals. "Shibi, welcome," Tsunade said, happy to see the man she knew as a child. Shibi nodded to his old sensei. "Good evening, sensei," Shibi said simply before gesturing to his side. "My son, Shino," he introduced. Tsunade smirked slightly, only now remembering how funny she found the Aburame's ways, and how she loved to mess with them. Tsunade patted Shino on the head as the two Aburame walked through the entryway, causing him to twitch slightly, though he otherwise seemed to be ignoring that the action even occurred. Tsunade then pulled Shibi into a hug, though he surprised her by hugging back with one arm. "It is very good to see you again, sensei," Shibi said, his quiet voice seeming slightly pained to her ears. She stepped away with a frown, knowing instantly that Shibi's fear had come to fruition as it was the only thing that made him come out from his emotionless shell. She looked down at Shino once more, who was looking at Naruto and Sasuke blankly in his normal outfit. Tsunade cleared her throat lightly. "Naruto-chan, take your classmates to your room, yeah? Show them the hospitality you'd show anyone," Tsunade said with a smile as in the background, Tsubaki the maid went to close the door but someone outside caught her attention. "Oh, Hayashi-sama." Naruto paused from leading the two boys from the room as everyone looked over to the doorway. Tsunade smiled politely at the man who nodded to the maid in recognition. "Good evening, Tsunade-chan," Hayashi said in his usual blank expression. Tsunade nodded to him. "Welcome, Hayashi, and this is Hinata, right?" Tsunade asked, kneeling down so that she was at Hinata's level. Hinata glanced up at Tsunade timidly, causing Tsunade's expression to soften as she near instantly saw Hinata's softness. What's caused this girl to retreat so far into solidarity? "It's best I treat her like I did Naruto when we first met," Tsunade thought as she offered her hand in a friendly gesture. Hinata looked at Tsunade's hand in shock before looking up at her father. "Accept all that she offers you, Hinata," Hayashi ordered, his gaze blank as Hinata seemed to jolt from being addressed directly from her father. Good evening, T.S. Tsunade-sama," Hinata stuttered out as she shook Tsunade's offered hand. Tsunade smiled softly, holding Hinata's hand until the girl looked at her in the eyes. "It's wonderful to meet you, Hinata-chan. Tell me, how are you finding the academy?" Tsunade asked calmly in a soothing voice. Naruto smirked, earning a look from Sasuke. "What?" Naruto asked. Sasuke merely folded his arms in annoyance, as Shino readjusted his glasses. "Sasuke-san is curious as to why you were smirking at their interaction. If I may inquire for the same answer, it would be appreciated," Shino said calmly to Naruto. Sasuke merely nodded in agreement. Naruto chuckled. "Ka-sen always says that the best way to get someone to open up with them is the three connections," Naruto said as he nodded to Tsunade and Hinata's entwined fingers: physical, the direct eye contact, visual, and the last one, emotional. Naruto finished, seeing Tsunade's somewhat personal question. Hinata blinked as she held Tsunade's gaze. "It's alright, I guess," Hinata replied. Tsunade nodded and smiled, using her other hand to brush back Hinata's hair from covering her eyes. "I'm sure you could use more of a challenge. Oh, but I didn't notice how cute you are," Tsunade said with a grin, before making sure that Hinata was staring right into her eyes. "You look as beautiful as your mother was." Hinata's eyes widened. "And mother?" she asked in shock. "That's enough," Hayashi said sternly. Tsunade knew she had done enough, so she stood as she put herself between Hayashi and Hinata, causing the man to blush slightly as her chest pressed against his arm. "Oh, come on, Hayashi," she said, using the moment of silence to move Hinata forwards lightly, glancing over at the boys near the hallway. Naruto grinned at the glance that Tsunade sent him. "Hey, Hinata. I want to show you guys something, come on," he said loudly. Shibi and Hayashi merely watched as Hinata nearly jumped before moving over to the boys quickly. Though Shizen raised a brow as she took a look over everyone in the room, Tsunade-sama has very quickly separated the kids from the adults. "I guess she won't need my help after all," Shizen thought as she set the 6th place setting. Naruto placed a friendly hand on the now blushing Hinata's shoulder, leading her down the hallway towards his little flat over the training room. "Are you guys hungry? Or thirsty?" Naruto asked as he opened the door, stepping to the side to allow the three of his classmates through. Hinata looked around in appreciation, as did Sasuke, though Shino had no reaction at the small flat as he replied to Naruto, "A drink would be very much appreciated," Shino said as he walked across the flat to what appeared to be a small balcony. Naruto walked over to his little bar fridge in the small kitchenette area, lifting out a jug of cold water and placing it on a tray before moving over to the cupboards. "Sasuke? Hinata? What about you guys?" he asked. Sasuke nodded. "Sure," he said simply before seeing what had Shino's attention and moving to stand by the bug user. Hinata nodded. "Why yes please Naruto-kun," she said softly. Naruto turned from placing the cups on the tray with the jug of water and carried the tray over to Shino and Sasuke, talking to Hinata as he passed her. "Would you mind getting the door for me, Hinata?" he asked with a smile. Hinata nodded quickly and moved to grab the door, letting Naruto lead the way onto the small balcony and letting the other two boys go before her before she followed them out, looking up at the view for the first time. "Wow," she whispered in awe. Naruto smirked as his three guests looked up at the Hokage's mountain. "Yeah, pretty great view, huh?" Naruto said before placing the tray down on a little coffee table. "Come take a seat, guys," Naruto said as he sat on the left side of a two-seater outdoor couch. Sasuke and Shino quickly sat in the two single chairs before Hinata sat next to Naruto on the couch. "Naruto, if I may, for what reason were we brought to this dinner meeting considering we are of little significance at this current point in time?" Shino asked. Naruto shared a humored glance with Sasuke as he thought of an answer. "Well, if I'm being honest, I don't really see it as too big of a deal considering some stuff," Naruto started before lifting his glass. The others copied him as Hinata decided to ask for more information. Naruto-kun, you didn't really answer the question," she said softly. Naruto just chuckled once before nodding. "Alright then, Ka-san asked me to tell only the people who need to know, and I guess all you guys classify as such," Naruto said before lifting his hands up into a standard ram seal. Sasuke raised a brow as Naruto's chakra sparked. "He's casting some kind of genjutsu?" Sasuke thought as Naruto's voice rang out. "Kai!" Poof. In a plume of smoke, Naruto sat in the same spot as before, though now his genjutsu was gone as he kept his left eye shut. Hinata and Sasuke stared at the new Naruto in confusion and shock as Shino merely nodded. "I see, you are an adopted son of Tsunade's. Why is it that you two have decided to keep your identity a secret?" Shino asked. The newly unmasked Naruto smirked. "I have to tell them about that and the Sharingan, but I think that's it," Naruto thought before speaking. "It's for the matter of my own safety apparently. You see, Ka-san saved my life a long time ago and gave me a special eye to replace the one that was taken," Naruto explained. Sasuke suddenly felt a foreboding feeling as he stared at Naruto's closed eye. "What makes the eye special?" Hinata asked quietly. Naruto looked at Sasuke for a moment of silence. "It's the eye of an ex-ANBU member who belonged to a now nearly extinct clan. He was known as Shursui of the Shunshin, but his actual name was Shursui Uchiha," Naruto explained, opening his eye and letting the three in front of him see the crimson-red orb. Sasuke was frozen still as he stared at Naruto's Sharingan eye. "No wonder Naruto is so strong, he has been blessed with the gift of my bloodline," Sasuke thought before smirking, believing that it was only thanks to his clan that Naruto had any power, though he couldn't look at the eye, feeling a large amount of jealousy welling up inside when he did. Hinata's eyes widened in shock at the revelation. But wouldn't that be a massive drain on your body and chakra, Naruto-kun?" she asked. Naruto shrugged. "Yeah, it was when I was younger, but I guess I've gotten used to it from overusing it," Naruto said with a smile. "Naruto, how is it that Shursui's eye came to you?" Sasuke asked. Naruto blinked at Sasuke before looking up. "Ugh, I don't know, I never thought to ask," Naruto said honestly. Sasuke looked down for a moment as he clenched his fist. "Shursui, he was my cousin, like another brother to me," Sasuke began, glaring at the ground intensely. Shino placed a hand on Sasuke's shoulder, shocking the young teen with the contact. "Sasuke-san, I believe that Naruto here may hold the secret to you unlocking the Sharingan," Shino said, causing everyone to look at him with wide eyes. What do you mean, Shino-kun?" Hinata asked timidly. Shino glanced at her as Sasuke looked at Naruto with an unreadable expression. "The core of the Uchiha clan's skills is their ability to copy and memorize. I theorize along with many others that the potential for such a skill lies in you before the chakra takes form of the Sharingan eye. Therefore I conclude that if Naruto and you were to have a physically draining spar while he stared at you with that eye, it may produce your own Sharingan through copying the Dijutsu itself," Shino explained. Naruto blinked at that. I'm not even sure if I understood that," he thought in confusion. Sasuke nodded and stood, Naruto Sasuke began, obviously not sure what to say. Naruto just gave a thumbs up. Well, if Shino thinks it'll help you, then yeah, sure, I'll do what I can. Naruto started before an idea popped into his head. I know. Why don't the four of us train together for this next week until we're assigned jobs as ninja? Sasuke is starting on the extra credit stuff, so if I get you guys to do it too, then we'll all be top of the class. Naruto exclaimed. Sasuke smirked, thinking that he was ahead of Hinata and Shino, who shared a blank look before Hinata spoke softly. Ano, Shino-kun and I have learned alternate CH chakra types from a young age since we're from clans, she said barely above a whisper. And the storage seal? Naruto asked. Hinata looked down sadly as Shino took the cue to speak. I am capable of writing the seal in under 5 minutes, and Hinata will be at the same level if not better by the end of this week, Shino said surely. Hinata blushed. Ano, I'm not as sure about that, she said nervously. I am, Shino said surely. Before Hinata could say anything else, they heard a light knocking back inside. Naruto stuck his head in the open door as his genjutsu shimmered into existence without a single hand seal. Hey Tsubaki, Naruto said with a grin. The maid let herself in and approached the balcony door. Tsunade-sama's other guests have arrived and started dinner. Would you like me to bring your portion of the feast here for you and your friends to enjoy? She asked with a smile. Naruto grinned as he stood up. Yeah, that sounds cool, he said before glancing at his new friends, all 3 of them staring curiously at Naruto's re-emerged genjutsu facade. You guys good with that? He asked with a smile. Shizen held up a stopwatch for the 4 in front of her to see. Ready everyone? She asked. Naruto nodded as he lifted his hands to form a basic hand seal. Ready Ne-chan, he exclaimed. Sasuke formed the same seal and merely nodded. Shino merely lifted his hands out of his jacket pockets. Hinata formed 2 hand seals before holding a third. Go! Shizen exclaimed as she clicked the button on top of the watch. Substitution Jutsu. All 4 academy students disappeared in a puff of smoke, replacing themselves with a log before they all jumped into the clearing again while forming hand seals. Transformation Jutu. After another puff of smoke, Shizen was surrounded by 4 copies of her. Shizen looked over all of them with a sharp eye for a full second before nodding, allowing the 3 of them to form hand seals once more. Clone Jutsu. Insect Clone Jutsu. Shizen nodded as Sasuke, Hinata, and Shino's clones popped into existence. Though she frowned at the 7 dud clones that Naruto barely managed to produce, the 4 hesitated for a moment. Don't stop. Keep going, Shizen ordered. The 4 moved a few steps closer to Shizen to stop next to each of their individual ink pots, quickly kneeling to write out the storage seal. In 15 seconds, Naruto finished his seal and sealed said ink pot into it. In 27 seconds, Hinata finished with Sasuke only a few seconds behind her. Shino was the last to finish at 40 seconds exactly. The moment Shino finished, he stood up, that being the signal that they all begun a ninjutsu to show their use of an alternate chakra type. Shino's was the fastest to activate considering his bug clone just lost its form and flew back into Shino's body. Hinata made a single-handed seal. Byakugan, she exclaimed, showing her bloodline as an alternate. Sasuke was the first one to turn away from the group as he formed a quick series of well-practiced hand seals, fire style, fireball jutsu. Naruto turned as well, his cheeks bulging as he felt the chakra build up in his throat. Ninja art, poison fog jutsu. Click. The academy kids turned to a smiling Shizen. In total, 78 seconds. Shizen said before showing them the face of the watch. Yeah, I'd say you're ready. You guys are basically guaranteed to pass, she said to the group. Sasuke smirked confidently while Shino nodded. Though Hinata looked over worriedly at Naruto, who was looking over at the only deformed clone that still was in existence. Naruto-kun still can't do the clones. What do we do? She thought, hoping to find a way to help her new friend in some way. Shizen pocketed the stopwatch. Okay guys. That covers all the academy stuff I think. You looking forward to the first test tomorrow? She asked. Sasuke raised a brow. It's only the written tests, he said. Shino nodded in agreement. It would be quite shocking that we'd be looking forward to a test. Why? Because it's a seemingly unnecessary challenge that we've taken part in hundreds of times in the academy, he explained. Shizen just smiled at the boy. What am I supposed to say to that? She thought before waving it off. Ma, you know what I mean. Good luck tomorrow and maybe I'll see you when you're all genin? She asked hopefully. Sasuke and Hinata instantly nodded while Shino tilted his head. It would be unlikely. As you are a Tokubetsu Jonin, the odds of working together is minimal at this point in time. Shino said calmly. Shizen just sighed and decided to annoy Shino by hugging him to shut him up. Okay, Shino-kun, she said as she shut him up by shoving his face into her chest. It worked. Sasuke bowed politely. Thanks, sensei, Sasuke said simply before he began to walk off home. Shizen frowned as she placed Shino back on his feet, causing the bug user's eyebrows to stay in a permanent furrow as he began to march off after Sasuke. Shizen turned to Hinata only to see her still watching Naruto, and that he had only just managed to focus enough to dispel the illusion that was the clone, causing him to sigh before he turned back, seeing Hinata and Shizen watching him. What? He asked before smiling and pretending there was nothing wrong. Hinata shook her head. And nothing. I was just She paused for a moment before nodding in the general direction his clones were in. Wondering how much progress you've made with your backup plan? She asked quietly. Shizen smiled softly at that while Naruto grinned. Yeah. Ka-san is gonna get me started tomorrow afternoon on this other clone thing. I'll be ready for the practical exam in 3 days, believe it? He promised with a smile so wide that his eyes were forced shut. Shizen's gaze suddenly turned to a glare. Naruto, she exclaimed. Hinata and Naruto both jumped at her shout, making his smile fade as he saw Shizen's angry and hurt gaze. Naruto looked down at his feet. Sorry, Nei-chan, he said softly. Shizen smiled and walked over to Naruto, hugging him softly. It's okay, Naruto, just stop doing that, please. You don't need to hide yourself from your friends, and you promised you'd never hide behind that mask around Tsunade-sama or me, she said softly. Hinata blinked in confusion. Ayano, what's wrong? She asked timidly. Naruto stepped away from Shizen and shook his head. And nothing really, Hinata, just a moment of weakness on my part, Naruto said with a small but very much real smile. Hinata smiled too and nodded. Hinata-sama. The three of them turned to see someone who was obviously a Hyuga. Kenta-san, Hinata said with a polite bow. Kenta smiled softly, very much grateful for the timid and now worn out Hinata. Hayashi-sama was expecting you to be home nearly an hour ago, he lied. Hinata paled drastically. WW what? She asked before she looked to Shizen. I have to go, sensei, Naruto-kun, she said before running off, Kenta staying in her shadow as they sprinted towards the back gate of the new Senju complex. Naruto watched on with an odd foreboding feeling as she disappeared. Get home safely, Hinata-chan, Naruto thought to himself before looking up at Shizen. Sorry about before, Nei-chan, I still get nervous, and it just happens, I guess, he said with a shrug. Shizen sighed. Well, you know what your punishment is, she said with a smile as she folded her arms. Naruto groaned. But I don't want to bathe Tonton. Good night, Naruto-kun, you don't have to wait up for Tsunade-sama, you know, Shizen said with her head sticking out Naruto's balcony door. The little blonde looked up at her and smiled. I know, but I want to, he said before sinking further into his chair. It's nice here too, he said absent-mindedly. Shizen smiled at him. Sometimes he acts so much older than he is, she thought as he turned and smiled to her again. Night, Nei-chan. Night, Naruto-kun. Naruto smiled politely as Shizen walked away, though the moment she closed the door behind her, Naruto's expression became one of intense focus as he looked at the Hokage monument again. Sure Sui Uchiha, Naruto thought as he closed his normal eye, his Sharingan morphing slowly as he began to pant heavily. Flashback. It really is cool, you know? I said as I turned to my friend. Itachi merely nodded. You just want your face on the mountainside. I don't see why. Being Hokage means you're mostly stuck in that office doing paperwork. I couldn't hold back my laugh at that. Come on, Itachi. I know you're still a kid, but you're way smarter than that. Itachi looked at me with a blank expression, then his brow furrowed. Seriously? You don't get it? I couldn't believe it. Itachi just raised a brow at me. Dude, out of everyone I thought you would have known, I started before feeling that this was quite important. I leant closer to ensure he was actually focused on me. To become Hokage, you have to be the fastest, the strongest, and above all, the most giving, I told him. Itachi looked forward at the Hokage monument. The most giving, I don't understand, he said simply. I couldn't hold in my sigh. Itachi, what you willing to give for this village? I asked him. Something in him changed. I saw it, I felt it. He looked exactly the same, but his aura was different, his presence was different. This is what he was like before they pulled him out of the ANBU program. I would give my life and as many of the enemies as necessary to ensure Konohagakure will stay peaceful. Shit, I believed him. Naruto gasped as his Manjikyu faded back to a normal Sharingan, causing him to put a hand over his eye in pain, This Shursui was an interesting guy. And to think he knew Sasuke and Itachi too. Naruto thought to himself as he closed his Sharingan eye. Have fun with that? Naruto looked to his right to see a tired-looking Tsunade had at some point sat next to him and poured her own drink from his bottle. Not really, Kasan. It hurts when I activate the next stage, but as long as I don't try any special stuff with it, it won't stop working for me, right? Naruto asked. Tsunade sighed. Well, basically yes, but there's so much more to it than that, Naruto-chan, she said tiredly as she slumped further into the chair. Naruto tilted his head as he sat up and looked at her. Kasan, what's with all the blood? He asked. Tsunade looked down at her shirt and closed her eyes to suppress the urge to throw up. Just as I was leaving work, she glanced at Naruto. A young girl came in with a cut that traveled from just below her jugular to the top of her pelvic region. There was also large amounts of bruising all over the body. It was rough, she said with a shake of her head. Naruto scowled as his fists clenched. Damn it, Naruto muttered angrily. Tsunade shook her head. Yeah, it was pretty brutal, she said with a sigh. Naruto felt the tears form in his eyes before he could do anything about it. He wiped his eyes clear as he glared off to the side. When you say pelvic region, Naruto said as her words began to click in his mind. Tsunade just nodded. Yeah, exactly what you think. This is one of the reasons I hate ninjas sometimes. They just use their power to get what they want, regardless of the consequences, she said with a scowl. Naruto pouted, sad that his mother had to go through seeing all that she had, but even more sad for the people that had already suffered. He looked around, trying to gain inspiration for a subject change before he suddenly remembered something. Really sorry to hear that, Kasan, but I kinda have a problem to attend to and I was hoping you'd be able to help me quickly? Naruto asked. Tsunade blinked tiredly, but smiled happily at the chance to help out. Sure, what do you need? Tsunade asked as she placed her drink down, pulling herself up into a more comfortable position. Naruto smiled as he turned to Tsunade. Well, you know how Iruka-sensei said that I might have a chakra mutation from our bloodline? I was wondering how we can check, cause as much as I've read, I can't think of a way to activate it without knowing already what I'm trying to activate, Naruto said as he scratched the back of his head. Tsunade looked up and thought, good point, that is how they did it in the old days, but now if a person is good enough at being a medic, they know how to channel a patient's chakra into a physical state for analysis. Tsunade explained. Naruto's brow furrowed. A physical state, you mean like those chakra crystals? Naruto asked, remembering once when he observed Tsunade helping analyze one of the chakra poisons one of the next generation of slugs had begun to excrete. She had extracted a purple cloud of chakra before it compressed into a tiny purple crystal so that Tsunade could touch it. Then after chipping off a small chunk, Tsunade was able to analyze it under a proper microscope. Tsunade nodded, exactly like those chakra crystals, but while in the medical environment they're called? She asked, hoping Naruto would be able to answer. Naruto merely blinked with a sheepish smile, showing that he hadn't come across the term before. Tsunade smirked. Gems, just gems, she explained. Naruto nodded as he recorded the words to memory. Gems, Naruto thought before holding a hand out to Tsunade. So, can you do mine and see if I have one? He asked. Tsunade tilted her head and thought, I can, but only if you apply for an in-village ninja medic license after you graduate, Tsunade offered. Naruto frowned, knowing that before he'd been complaining about how if he registered, they might start assigning him shifts in the hospital, but a part of his mind flashed to the girl that may have been assaulted. If it's to help people like her, people who really need it, Naruto thought as he looked up to meet his mother's eyes with a nod. Yeah, I'll register as a medic, Naruto promised. Tsunade tilted her head as she looked at the determination in Naruto's eyes and his outstretched hand. She smiled as she sent chakra to her pointer finger and took Naruto's hand into her own. Here we go, just send some chakra into your hand, she said as she put her pointer finger in the middle of Naruto's palm. Naruto's face twitched at the small sting of pain, but he continued channeling chakra to his palm before Tsunade pressed her finger a little harder. Ow! Naruto exclaimed as he pulled his hand back in slight pain, the wound glowing green as he channeled his already stored medical chakra to the wound. Perfect, Tsunade said as she held up a small crystal into the light on Naruto's balcony. Naruto looked up at the gem with a smile. Cool, how long do you think it'll take to find out? Naruto asked. Tsunade casually dropped the gem into the valley of her breasts, causing Naruto to sigh as he knew that meant he'd never get it back as she spoke. About a week, but forget about that, Tsunade said as she felt the dried blood move uncomfortably as it was soaked and now dried into her clothes. She held back some bile as she took a deep breath with her mouth, only to have a flash of the bloody academy girl she had looked after enter her mind. Nope, I won't be sleeping tonight, Tsunade thought with a sigh before turning to Naruto and deciding to be productive. So Naruto-chan, how about we get started on that clone technique tonight? She asked. Naruto grinned. We get to start early? Yes. Naruto asked in excitement, one more jutsu on my path to becoming Genin. Naruto thought excitedly. Tsunade smiled softly as she watched Naruto look up at the Hokage Mountains with a grin. Her eyes grew soft as she looked at Minato's face, seeing the resemblance with Naruto when he had his genjutsu inactive. With it active, he basically looked like a mini-male Tsunade. Tsunade's smile dropped as she stood, feeling the grind of dried blood in her clothes. Meet you in the training room soon, okay? I'm just gonna change clothes first, she said before walking inside. Naruto nodded and sprung to his feet as he grabbed the leftover drinks and glasses from his balcony, bringing them inside and placing them on his bench for Tsubaki to grab for washing later. Ka-san. Do I wear the restricting bracelet? He asked as she opened his door. Tsunade glanced over her shoulder at Naruto and shook her head. Nah, this is like producing medical chakra. You'll need all the focus you can get initially, but once you get the hang of it, then you can try with the bracelet, Tsunade said as she stepped out. Naruto ran into his room to get ready for some late-night training, though as he went to put on his training robe, he realized the time. Oh yeah, I gotta take them off for the night now, Naruto mumbled to himself as he lifted his foot onto a chair. Naruto reached up his pants and undid 2 clasps, taking off the small set of weights from his first leg before lifting up his other one and doing the same. Naruto stretched his legs out a couple of times before nodding to himself and stretching tall with a yawn. As he yawned, Naruto's mind flashed to the expression of sick disgust that Tsunade showed when she had looked down at the blood on her clothes. Ka-san will have nightmares again if she sleeps tonight, he thought with a sad smile. But at least that means we get to train till tomorrow. Our training nights always seem to cheer her up a little, Naruto thought before turning to his wardrobe. Pulling out his training robe, Naruto began to get changed as he thought about what the training would be like that night. 3 days later. Naruto sat into his chair and leant back with a wide yawn before looking around the academy classroom. Still no Hinata, Naruto thought in worry as he looked at the empty seat in front of him next to Shino. You think she'll make it? Naruto asked the person next to him. Sasuke seemed to snap back into focus as if he'd been daydreaming. HN? He asked with a raised brow. Naruto rolled his eyes. Hinata hasn't been to train with us for a few days and she hasn't been here at the academy either. If she doesn't show up today, she won't even be able to get her ninja license, Naruto explained. Sasuke blinked before glancing at the empty chair and then looking towards the clock. If you really cared so much, why don't you go check at her compound? We still have an hour until free period is up and the test begins, Sasuke suggested, not really believing that Naruto would. Naruto looked out the window as the same foreboding feeling from a few nights earlier set in. How come I feel like Hinata's been? I don't know, something Naruto thought. At the sound of a chair scraping across the ground, the two looked forward to see Shino had stood up. Unfortunately, my curiosity and concern has overthrown my need to abide by the rules, Shino said calmly as he turned to Naruto. I will come with you. I know the way, Shino said before marching off towards the classroom door. Naruto blinked at Shino before standing and nodding. Yeah, right behind you, Shino, Naruto said as he quickly followed, the two boys leaving the room in a matter of seconds. Sasuke blinked as the two left before sighing as he was suddenly surrounded by the fangirls once more. Damn, Sasuke thought with a sigh before trying to zone out, looking at the wall at the front of the classroom. Sasuke's eyes narrowed as he watched the second's hand on the claw face, causing Sasuke to scowl. That clock's frozen, he thought before realizing something. That means those two don't know. Shit, what time is it? Sasuke thought as he stood, looking around the room for another clock. Shino and Naruto jumped from building to building, moving as fast as they could towards the Hyuga complex. After a few minutes though, Shino glanced towards Naruto calmly. Naruto, I was curious as to why you find it important for Hinata to at least be there to try. As you have not known her long, it seems illogical for you to risk being late for the Genin exam for her, Shino said, asking in his weird way. Naruto merely shrugged. It's my duty as a medical ninja to make sure my comrades are at top health, and how can I be expected to look after people in real-life situations if I don't even try? Naruto said before looking ahead and smiling slightly. Besides, she's one of the first friends I've ever made, along with you and Sasuke, Naruto said with a growing smile. Shino nodded in reply before turning to their right and making one last massive leap. You are the third human I could call friend, Shino said quietly, agreeing with Naruto's motives. Naruto nodded as the two came to a stop at the front of two large gates. Shino stepped forward and bowed politely. Good morning, we are here to ensure Hinata makes it to the academy in time for the Genin exams, Shino said without coming out from his bow. Naruto watched as both of the Hyuga guards looked at each other uncomfortably. There was a few moments of silence before the Hyuga on their left side welcomed Shino-san, but Hinata-sama went through some stuff a few days ago and has yet to recover mentally. Her father has said that none are to see her, he explained. Shino stood from his bow and then did nothing, causing the Hyuga men to stare at him expectantly as he tried to calmly think of a way to get to Hinata. Can we leave a message for her then? The two Hyuga men and Shino turned to Naruto as he took a step forward. Listen up, my name is Naruto Senju and I need to tell her some things. If I write it down, can you give her the message? Naruto asked. The men looked at each other for a moment in thought before the one who hadn't spoken yet nodded. I guess so, he muttered. Shino watched as Naruto reached into his ninja pouch and pulled out a notepad. He began writing on it as quick as he could before scribbling it out and tearing the page away. After starting again, Naruto smiled before coming to a pause in his writing and glancing at Shino and smiling wider and finishing the note. Passing the note to the first of the two gate guards, Naruto bowed politely. I know it might not seem like much to you guys, but even though it's not a clan practice, Hinata really tried hard to get this far at the academy, Naruto began before standing. Please, I don't want my friend to miss something this important and regret it later. The two guards looked at each other as Naruto stepped back by Shino's side and turned away. A moment later, and Shino did the same before the two of them walked off. After a few minutes of walking, they entered the first portion of the shopping district, meaning that they were nearing halfway of their walk back. But they came to a stop as Naruto stared at the sign of a nearby shop. Shino? Naruto asked. Shino looked back. Yes? He asked. Naruto pointed up at the large clock that was part of the sign. What time does that say? Naruto asked calmly, just in case he had misread it. Shino turned his head and looked at the clock. We're late. Now when you say alternate you mean? Iruka facepalmed. We've been through this, Sasuke. What's with the 20 questions all of a sudden? Iruka rhetorically asked. Sasuke sat coolly in his desk, trying to keep his face blank as everyone stared at him in shock, though he wasn't sure if it was because that was the 5th time he'd asked that question, the fact he'd been asking the same repetitive questions for almost 20 minutes, or the fact that he was talking so much. Well, you haven't given me a sufficient enough answer yet, so Sasuke muttered. Iruka sighed and looked to the other teacher. Are you experiencing the same thing I am right now? I think I'm going nuts, Iruka exclaimed. Mizuki just shrugged. I think so? He asked. Bam. Everyone turned as the classroom door slammed open and Naruto charged inside. Made it! He shouted before falling flat on his face. Shino jogged in a few seconds later, merely breathing heavily as he surveyed the room. Seeing that everyone was staring at him, an experience he literally had never had before, he just took 2 slow steps over to an empty desk in the front row and took a seat. Naruto pushed himself into an upright position and chuckled nervously. Sorry for being late. Have you guys started? Naruto asked as he scratched the back of his head. The classroom was quiet for a moment until Sasuke cleared his throat. I get it now, sensei, thanks, Sasuke said with a calm smirk. Iruka just blinked olishly as Naruto retreated to an empty seat next to Sasuke before sharing a bewildered look with Mizuki, who just shrugged back at him. Weirdest graduation day ever, Iruka thought to himself as he lifted up a clipboard. Alright, if there are no more questions, Iruka started as he pointedly staring at Sasuke as if daring him, then let's get started, just like with the practice tests, okay? I call your name, and we take you next door, Iruka explained as he pointed to the adjoined examination room. Okay, up first, Shino Aburame. Knock knock. Hinata-sama? Hinata rolled over in her bed to face the door. Her room was dark as the blinds were drawn completely. She wore her plain gray pajama bottoms and a white tank top over a long series of bandages wrapped around her torso. Her entire frame covered by a thin sheet as her emotionless eyes were drawn to the crack in the door. Yes? She asked weakly. The Hyuga branchwoman stepped into the room and closed the door behind her as she came to kneel next to Hinata's bed. Since the incident with Kenta Hyuga, the man who saw Hinata's uncertainty about using the caged bird seal and used it for his sick personal pleasure, Hinata had barely eaten enough to survive and hadn't left her room. Though according to her counselor, that wasn't too surprising since she had just been raped, cut, and beaten. Feeling a touch on her cold hand, Hinata recoiled as she began to listen to what the branch member was saying. Sorry? Hinata asked. The woman sighed. Hinata-sama, a blonde boy who called himself Naruto left a note for you at the gate. He really wanted to know how you were, Hinata-sama, she said pleadingly. Hinata looked at the note as it was placed on the pillow next to her head. Naruto, she thought as the Hyuga woman moved around to the other side of the bed. As she opened the blinds, Hinata reached up and unfolded the paper as she began to read with the help from the sunlight. Naruto Senju, Mizuki said as he stuck his head out the open door. Naruto stood up and marched down the steps confidently. Though Sasuke and Shino both doubted his certainty since they had yet to see him perform the clone technique. Naruto closed the door behind him as Mizuki took his seat again. Iruka began talking the moment the door was shut. So Naruto, are you applying for the extra credit marks? Iruka asked. Naruto nodded and raised his hand as it glowed green, medical chakra, an alternate chakra type. Naruto said calmly before stepping over to the line of tables against the side of the room. Mizuki and Iruka watched as Naruto unrolled a blank scroll to the first section and lifted the ink brush from the pot in front of him. Naruto got to work and in around 30 seconds, had calmly produced a storage seal. Naruto brought the scroll over as the ink dried, placing it in front of Iruka and Mizuki before stepping back. Iruka placed his now empty coffee cup on the seal before sending his chakra into it. Poof. Good work, Naruto, Iruka said with a smile as he wrote another tick on his checklist. At this rate, even if he can't do the clone technique, he'll still pass. He's the first to have gotten 100% in every exam in years. Iruka thought as he nodded to Mizuki. The blue-haired Chunin pulled out a blunted shuriken. Substitution, go! Mizuki shouted as he threw the shuriken. Without a hand seal and within a simple puff of smoke, Naruto had replaced himself with the chair that let off a thunk as the shuriken bounced off it, earning another nod from Iruka. As Iruka took notes on his clipboard, Mizuki barked out orders for the next technique, transformation, go! Naruto formed a hand seal this time to focus on the transformation. Poof! Standing in Naruto's place was Tsunade Senju, a perfect replica. Iruka and Mizuki nodded as Iruka began to take notes. Okay, and last but not least, a clone technique. Mizuki said with a smirk, now he'll fail, and considering his commitment to making Tsunade happy, he'll take my backup test for certain, he thought secretly. Poof. As the original Naruto appeared from the smoke, he was holding a hybrid hand seal in the shape of a cross, Shadow Clone Jutsu. Naruto announced as his chakra pushed out around him. Iruka and Mizuki's eyes widened as 8 Narutos poofed into existence, surrounding the original and showing that they were solid by having them simultaneously pull out a chair each and take a seat as he smirked. Okay guys, we're done, Naruto said casually with a grin. Iruka blinked in shock. Shadow clones? How? Iruka asked. Naruto grinned. Like Ka-san explained before sensei, my chakra is too thick for the normal clones, so now she taught me this one instead. As his clones nodded and stood, pushing the chairs back before dispelling. As the clone smoke wafted away, Iruka stood, dropping his clipboard as he grabbed a headband from the desk. Here's your headband, Naruto. Congratulations on becoming a genin, Iruka said with a genuine smile. Naruto grinned as he accepted the headband. Thanks, sensei, Naruto said as he kept it in his hand and left the room. Closing the door behind him, Naruto turned to the class and grinned as he held up his headband in victory. Slam. Hinata-sama. Tears fell from her eyes as she ran towards the gate of her compound, Naruto's letter clenched in her fist. I'm so sorry, Hinata-hime, I've worked out what happened. Hinata's Byakugan eyes spotted the Hyuga guardsmen beginning to push the gate closed. I won't stay here, father. I am strong enough for this, she thought as she ran forward. If you remember my mother, you'll remember she helped you. As her son and your friend, I always will too. Hinata! But I can't help if you don't get up. I've seen it, you are stronger than this, Hinata. Glancing over her shoulder, Hinata's tears picked back up as she saw her father glaring at her from his upstairs office balcony. Stop her! Hi, as she shouted. Don't let that creep's actions define you, lift yourself back up to the light. I'm not staying here, Hinata thought as her tears began to slow as she watched the gate closed. This is your chance to become a genin, to fulfill a 6-year goal you started when you entered the academy. You can't let him stop you. Hinata paused as a branch member tried to grab her arm, but she ducked under the arm as she sent chakra to her feet, gliding for a moment as if skating in a spin to dodge his grab. Please come back, come and help yourself back up onto your feet so that your friends can help you. Me, Shino and Sasuke believe in you. The clan stared in shock as Hinata's chakra balanced under her just like the tree climbing exercise. She pushed hard and leapt up. I promise I will guide you. Naruto Senju will back you up 100%. Hinata landed with a roll on the roof of the building opposite her clan's compound. She stood and brushed the dirt from her pajamas quickly as she leapt onto the main road and began running, her bare feet slapping against the ground loudly as she pushed through the crowd on her way to the academy, her Byakugan showing her the way. Chime. Iruka looked up at the clock and smiled as he placed his clipboard down. Now I officially end the day's examination. Congratulations, everyone! Iruka exclaimed happily. The classroom full of new genin cheered and began talking animatedly once the news was shared, but Naruto and Shino shared a glance before looking at the door, unfortunately not seeing Hinata. She was too late. Now, since you're all just graduating, you get scaled based on the overall score of your final tests, Iruka began as he lifted up his clipboard, taking off the first sheet as he began passing them out alphabetically. Shino, you got pretty good, above average. Iruka congratulated before moving on from Aburame to Akimichi. Mizuki stood as well as he held up his own clipboard and began clapping for attention. Alright, settle down. Our last act as your sensei is to inform you about ninja registration. From 3 onwards the registry will be open and all you have to do is go and get your photo taken and fill out a few forms. The registry will be open for the next few days so it's no rush, Mizuki said with a shrug. But the most important thing is to come back to the academy and meet in your original classroom at 9 tomorrow morning for team assignments. Mizuki explained. The class nodded as Iruka stood next to Mizuki. Alright, that's it then. Off you go! Iruka said loudly. In an instant most had vacated the room, then the remaining girls basically chased Sasuke out as they screamed for his approval. Naruto sighed as he stood up from his chair, glancing over to the sleeping Shikamaru as Choji tried to wake him up before hearing loud footsteps. Naruto turned and looked at the entryway from the back of the room as did Shino, who was moments from walking out. Slam. Sensei, Hinata gasped out weakly, I am here. Iruka looked up from his gathering of paperwork as Mizuki picked up the box with the sealing equipment. Hinata? Iruka asked in shock as Shikamaru woke from the loud noise. Hinata walked up to Naruto and paused in front of him as she gripped his hand for a moment. Thank you, she said with a soft smile before moving a few steps closer to Iruka. Iruka-sensei, I'm here for the genin examination. Hinata said politely, trying to ignore the cool temperature of the classroom through her thin clothes. Iruka sighed. Hinata, I'm sorry, but this year's tests are over. You'll have to wait until next time. Iruka said apologetically. Next time? Naruto shouted as he stood. Screw that. Hinata is a better ninja than most of the kids you just let pass. She already is genin level, so can't you just pretend that you haven't closed the exams yet? Naruto pleaded. Iruka shook his head with a sigh. It's not that simple, Iruka began. Iruka, Mizuki began as he placed down the sealing equipment. Maybe we could just this once, you know. I mean, we've both trained Hinata here for a few years now. I think you know as well as I do that she's more than capable. Mizuki said, hoping to get on Hinata's good side as he began to formulate a backup plan. Iruka shook his head. No, Mizuki, you know we can't do that. Iruka said softly before leaving the room. There was a thick silence as Choji and Shikamaru tried to sneakily leave, Shino following after them as he thought it best that Hinata be left alone. If she was pissed she could hurt someone, and unlike Naruto, Shino doesn't have healing abilities. Naruto watched Hinata from behind as her shoulders began to shake. She fell to her knees in defeat as she began to cry again. No, no, she said sadly between loud sobs. Naruto was by her side in a moment, moving to hug her for comfort, but she recoiled from his touch before he lightly placed a hand on hers, letting her grip it as her tears began to really pour forth. You know there is always other ways to qualify. Naruto and Hinata looked up at Mizuki as the Chunin looked around as if to check there was no one but the three of them nearby. Sensei? Naruto asked hopefully. Mizuki sighed as he mentally finalized his own plans. Perfect, he thought as he schooled his emotions. There are a few other ways to become genin, like the way I did back in the day was taking one of the Hokage's special scrolls. The law still is in effect, so you could do it too, Hinata. Mizuki explained. Naruto's brow furrowed, not having heard of anything like it before. Then again, I haven't been in a village like this for years. Naruto thought as Hinata straightened up, though her tears didn't pause. Seeing he had her attention, Mizuki continued with his explanation. You know, I can set that test up for you if you'd like? Mizuki asked with a kind smile. Hinata nodded immediately. Why yes please, sensei. If I don't come back to the clan successfully, then I don't think my father will be too happy. Hinata said as she pushed herself into a standing position. Naruto's brow furrowed at her words while Mizuki thought nothing of it. Very good, well I'll set up the mission for you in the same room I once used. The aim is to get the specified scroll and learn a ninjutsu from it before the examiner can find you, in this case, me. Hinata nodded as she did her best to memorize the information, but Naruto tilted his head in thought. Excuse me Mizuki-sensei, but what scroll is it? Naruto asked. Mizuki glanced at Naruto with the slightest twitch of annoyance. Naruto, why don't you wait outside for a moment? I'll explain the test to Hinata some more, Mizuki said. Naruto frowned before sharing a look with Hinata, who simply nodded to him as she held his letter up to her chest with her free hand. Naruto sighed but nodded. I'll be outside, Hinata, Naruto said before walking away. Naruto opened the door as Mizuki began talking. Now, the room is adjoined to the Hokage's office, that's the... Naruto sighed as the door closed behind him. Something feels wrong about this, Naruto mumbled to himself. It would seem that Mizuki is planning on stealing the forbidden scroll of sealing. Naruto turned to Shino as the now Genin calmly communicated with the small beetle on his nose. Shino? Naruto asked. Shino lowered his hand as he turned to Naruto, showing the new forehead protector he wore proudly on his forehead. Yes, me. My bugs are currently listening and relaying everything that he's saying to her. I know for a fact this information is a lie, as my bugs can feel his hidden emotions, and no such test exists in the confines of this village, Shino explained. Naruto's face turned into a full scowl as he put his hand on the classroom door. Okay, we need to stop Mizuki, but more importantly, we need to make sure Hinata's safe on this mission of his, Naruto thought before looking down at his headband and smirking. Pulling the headband up and tying it around his own forehead, Naruto turned to Shino with a grin. Hey Shino, want to help me catch a criminal? Hinata landed with a roll as she made it to the clearing. She breathed heavily as she opened the forbidden scroll. Just one jutsu. I just need one, she thought as she came to a technique that required only one hand seal, the shadow clone jutsu? She muttered out loud. Fun technique. It helps when you want your mom to think you're home but really you're following a friend in danger. Hinata turned with wide eyes to see Naruto and Shino step out from behind the cabin, Naruto smirking as Shino readjusted his glasses. Naruto? Shino? She asked in confusion. Ignoring her shock, Naruto came to a stop by her side as he read the scroll over her shoulder. What else we got here? He mumbled to himself as he looked at the next three jutsu that he could see. Hinata stared at the side of Naruto's head for a moment of silent shock when Shino spoke up. Hinata, you should get started on that ninjutsu. It's the only way for you to become a genin, is it not? Shino said. Hinata smiled brightly as she realized the two were there to support her. She began to tear up again before putting on a serious expression and turning back to the scroll, placing it down on the ground and pushing it so that it unrolled some of the way. Naruto and Shino stepped back as she began reading everything she could find about the shadow clone jutsu. They looked up and down the long scroll before Naruto turned to Shino. Hey, do you reckon it would be so bad if we learned something here too? Naruto asked. Shino was still for a moment before shaking his head. It would only be logical for us to take this opportunity to grow as ninja, Shino said before walking down the length of the scroll, presumably reading the ninjutsu titles from behind his shades. Naruto smirked at Shino before beginning to look for a ninjutsu he could learn, making it down the line rather quickly before he paused at a section with sealing arts, Reaper Death Seal, Doused Flame Seal, Sealing Art, Ghetto Mark, Sealing Art, Bloodline Inheritance. Naruto thought as his eyes came to a stop and he dropped to his knees to begin reading for himself. Title: Sealing Art, Bloodline Inheritance. Type: Seal. Classification: Permitted War Seal. Rank A+. Bloodline Inheritance is a seal that ventures into the coding of the user's chakra and finds their latent bloodline, if they or a recent ancestor had one, and integrates it into the current user's natural chakra, forcing potential Kekkei Genkai to activate. Warnings: when used on a person without a latent Kekkei Genkai, physical mutations will occur in place of chakra mutations. Do not attempt unless under qualified supervision. Naruto smirked as he finished reading. With this I'll unlock one of the Uzumaki clan's chakra mutations. I really hope I get the chakra chains, Naruto thought as he pulled out his sealing scroll and moved to the third seal in it. Poof. With his sealing utensils in hand, Naruto set to work copying the seal step by step onto some chakra lace paper, causing the seal to slowly settle with each stroke. About 2 minutes later, Naruto paused and looked up to see Shino and Hinata standing up in the clearing and taking their first shot at the ninjutsu they decided to learn. Shadow Clone Jutsu, Hinata shouted as her chakra pushed harder than she'd ever had to before. Ninja Art, Dragonfly, Shino announced as he formed two separate one-handed seals and his chakra traveled up and down his back. Naruto smirked before turning back to his seal. Now Hinata did the mission and will be here to help her against Mizuki team, Naruto thought before looking off to the edge of the clearing and making eye contact with one of his own hidden shadow clones. The clone nodded at the look and dispelled in a plume of smoke. The Naruto clone back in the Senju household looked up in realization from its scroll and the fireball jutsu. Time to get Ka-san. It muttered as it rolled the scroll back up, practicing the hand seals to try and memorize them as he moved to go get Tsunade. I did it! Hinata and her clone exclaimed happily before they hugged each other, laughing in success as Hinata's eyes began to water up again. Now that I'm a genin, father will have to let me out of the compound to see my team and do missions. Hinata thought happily as she leaned against her clone. The two Hinatas sat down and leant against each other as they looked at opposite sides of the clearing. Shino was on his knees panting heavily before he took a deep breath and put his hands by his sides, his left being a one-handed dragon seal and his right a one-handed bird seal, dragonfly. Shino exclaimed before jumping up with a push of chakra. As Shino passed a meter into the air, 4 wings materialized using the skin and materials on his back in an understandably painful maneuver. But the wings flapped quickly with a low hum, allowing Shino to level out in the air before he flew forward, having difficulty turning, but still learning to fly. The Hinata clone watched as Naruto finally stood from his CO writing and moved the sheet over to a flat piece of dirt. Naruto looked at it for a moment as he sent chakra into it, causing the seal to glow an eerie blue before Naruto took off his shirt. Naruto turned his back to the seal and accidentally made eye contact with the Hinata clone. The clone blushed and Naruto shared a smile before Naruto raised his arms in a cross and began to fall back, aiming to land back first on the glowing seal. A cocoon of chakra wrapped around Naruto before it began to shrink down. Now both Hinatas were staring at the bright glow as Shino watched from a distance. Shit! Is she sending off a flare or something? What's with that light? Mizuki thought as he saw a white light flash from a position off to his left. Wa! Shino and Hinata stared with wide eyes as the seal Naruto was using suddenly began to cause him pain. The cocoon began to form the shape of Naruto's body as it continued to shrink down to the size of him and encompass him, showing the two of them that Naruto was holding his hands to his eyes in pain. Naruto! Shino shouted from his place above the trees. The cocoon compacted and sent out a burst of chakra that hit Hinata's clone, causing it to dispel and ruffle the real Hinata's clothes, but luckily protect her. But a moment later, the cocoon compacted again. Shino dove in quick as the next burst of chakra was about to hit Hinata. Shino landed with a slide, skidding on his knees to grab her around the torso before he jumped again, his wings beating fast to carry them up and out of the range of the chakra shell's pulses. The two watched as Naruto's scream came to a sudden halt after 3 more pulses of chakra, but they didn't dare move since someone had just entered the clearing. Mizuki looked around with wide eyes at the disturbance Naruto's chakra caused, which made him raise a brow. The Senju boy. Where's Hinata? Mizuki asked himself as he walked past the unconscious boy and over to the forbidden scroll. Hinata's eyes widened as she saw her teacher ignore Naruto's obvious pain. Why isn't? Sure, Mizuki isn't who you think he is. He was using you to steal the scroll for some reason. Shino whispered between deep breaths as the two of them circled the clearing to land on the top branch of a tree that looked over Naruto. Hinata's eyes widened at the words, but what about the test? She asked. Mizuki's loud laughter distracted the two of them for a moment. Finally. Now I can return to Orochimaru-sama's side with praise, Mizuki announced as he lifted the forbidden scroll into his arms. Orochimaru? Mizuki turned to see Iruka step from the cover of the tree line, moving around and spotting Naruto as he moved completely into view. Mizuki, what have you done with Hinata and what is your plan with that scroll? Iruka demanded. Mizuki smirked as he held the scroll under his arm. I've done nothing to the girl, don't know where that disgrace has gone off to. But I guess it doesn't matter after all, right? Mizuki asked mockingly. Iruka's brow furrowed. What do you mean? Iruka asked. Mizuki scoffed. Come on. We both know that now she's been popped and ran away. Hayashi won't want her. He's always believed women of the clan are best used for treaties and inter-clan marriage contracts. Her state and attitude says that's not gonna happen. She's useless to him now, especially since he can replace her with Anabi, the gifted one. Mizuki said calmly with a shrug, and since she's already run once, she's a threat to the clan. Iruka's rage was obvious on his face. Popped? He asked rhetorically, knowing full well what had happened to Hinata. How dare you? Hinata had something precious to her taken by force. The first Hyuga to not be an absolute dickhead, and she was mistreated and abused. Iruka shouted, pure angry rolling off of him in waves, and you used her for this? Iruka nearly roared as he bared his teeth, ready to kill Mizuki, regardless of the consequences. Mizuki shrugged. This is the ninja world, jackass. Other people have done much worse, he said with a dark smirk. Iruka went to charge at Mizuki when the Chunin dropped to a knee, his fingers wrapping around Naruto's throat. Not today, Iruka. Back off, or the kid gets it. Mizuki shouted. Iruka shook his head with a dark chuckle. You know, I'm glad you threatened Naruto's life like that. Know why? Iruka asked mockingly as he continued marching towards Mizuki. The Chunin's grip tightened. Why? Mizuki asked. 'Cause I'm a medic idiot. The medical chakra in my system wakes me up when I'm unnaturally unconscious, Naruto said casually as Mizuki looked down at him with wide eyes. Naruto slashed upwards with his right hand, but Mizuki pushed himself off of Naruto, thinking he had successfully dodged before he fell to a knee, his other leg not responding properly. What? Mizuki asked in shock. Naruto vaulted himself back as his blue glowing eyes shone with a new Sharingan, a blue version of the original that sat in both of his eyes instead of just the one. Naruto smirked as his new eyes worked with little effort on his part, as if he was a natural Uchiha. Mizuki glared at Naruto as Iruka charged at him from behind, jumping up to land a solid double kick, one to the back of Mizuki's head and one to his shoulder, throwing the Chunin onto his hands and knees while forcing him to let go of the scroll with a scream of pain as his shoulder was dislocated. Mizuki shouted angrily as Iruka grabbed the scroll and leapt back to land just in front of Naruto. Stupid fucking Mizuki grumbled under his voice as he forced himself to stand on shaky legs, pulling out a battle shuriken into his working hand. Stop fighting me! Mizuki shouted as he threw himself forward. Shadow Clone Jutsu. The three men on the ground paused and looked up as two Hinatas fell toward Mizuki. The first Hinata was thrown ahead at the last moment, forcing Mizuki on the defensive as she struck low before jumping up. The second Hinata did the same, landing a second later as Mizuki's attention focused on the airborne Hinata kicking at his head. Mizuki blocked as the second Hinata dove through his legs to come up behind Mizuki and slam a gentle fist strike into his back. Mizuki gasped as the strike threw him off, allowing the first Hinata to aim a kick at Mizuki's face. Mizuki barely leaned out of the way of the kick and slashed through the air with his shuriken, destroying the clone as the real Hinata leapt back. Insect Ball! Mizuki had turned and missed a slash at the real Hinata before hearing the shout from above. Mizuki looked up, seeing Shino had formed his bugs into a large ball of chakra-eating bugs. Usually the attack was a slow one as the bugs had to fly across a distance, but with Shino carrying the bugs, it was a stronger and faster attack. The bug ball exploded on Mizuki, throwing the Chunin at Naruto and Iruka. Iruka moved so that his downward kick slammed into the back of Mizuki's head, plowing him into the ground face first. Mizuki rolled painfully across the ground, coming to a stop against Naruto's foot. Mizuki weakly looked up into Naruto's blue Sharingan eyes as the genin made a fist. You're going straight to jail, no trial, no hurting any of my friends, and no Orochimaru, Naruto announced as his hand glowed green and he swung his punch. Hiruzen sighed as he sat back in his chair, bringing his pipe to his lips as he lit it up with a spark of fire chakra. That was ridiculous. Those three managed to learn A-rank techniques in only a few hours. Not just any ninja can do that, Hiruzen thought while blowing out some smoke. Hiruzen's eyes softened as he watched Hinata look at Mizuki sadly. And this girl just broke free of the clan after recovering from an extremely traumatizing position, learned a jutsu she shouldn't even have the chakra to achieve, and helped in taking down an active Chunin defector even in her pajamas. Hiruzen thought before turning to his door and glancing at the candle on his desk. Blowing out the candle, the lights in his office automatically lit up as Hiruzen cleared his throat. You're allowed in now, he said calmly. Bam. Tsunade stormed in angrily as the door she had punched flew out the window. What the hell is going on, sensei? She demanded as two other men walked in behind her. I am currently filing for banishment for someone in my clan. I have more important matters to attend to than to wait at your door, old man, Hayashi said disrespectfully. Shibi merely stood silently as he waited for an explanation. Hiruzen took a pull of his pipe and calmly looked over the three in front of him silently. He blew out the smoke through his nose before looking firstly at Hayashi. Tell me, I've heard that Hinata may be a threat to the Hyuga clan. Is that true? He asked. Hayashi sighed quietly. Yes, it is true. Hiruzen nodded. So, she is also the one that is being banished to the branch family of the clan? He asked. Hayashi smirked. The paperwork is filled. I'm just having it filed in the Hyuga archives. As of tomorrow morning it will be filed and therefore become clan law, Hayashi said, knowing his work was done. Tsunade closed her eyes as she suppressed her rage, though she was glad she wasn't the one that had to show it. Shibi's fist slammed into Hayashi's face, sending the man to the ground in shock. Hayashi stared at Shibi before the man bowed to the Hiruzen. My apologies, Hokage-sama, I slipped, Shibi said calmly. Hiruzen nodded as Hayashi lost his composure and spluttered in shock. Slipped? He shouted. Forgiven, Shibi, Hiruzen said with a smile. Hayashi, the matter is closed. he finalized. Hayashi was about to speak up when Tsunade slammed her fist into the Hokage's desk. "Forget this idiot, and tell me where my son is," Tsunade demanded. Hayashi quietened down at Tsunade's words, feeling hurt as he still believed that the two of them held a special connection. Hiruzen sighed after taking a long drag from his pipe. "Since Hinata is no longer part of your direct family, Hayashi, you aren't needed here. I'm sorry for putting you out like this," he said with a tired smile. Hayashi bristled with annoyance and anger before hiding it under his mask of no emotions. He turned and briskly walked out of the office, slamming the door behind him. Hiruzen sighed as he took another drag of his pipe. "Iruka is bringing Naruto, Shino and Hinata here now along with the Forbidden Scroll and their prisoner." Hinata was given an impossible task to achieve with the promise of Genin status as a reward. But she more than achieved. She learned to use an A-rank jutsu in around 3 hours. Hiruzen said, letting that dawn on them. Shibi looked out the window for a moment in contemplation. Then it would be logical she be given Genin status. "But what of my son?" he asked. Hiruzen smiled. "Shino also learned an A-rank jutsu that goes with his style perfectly. While Naruto found and used a special seal that awakened any hidden bloodlines he may have had locked away in his chakra coils," Hiruzen explained. Tsunade blinked at that, unsure of what to expect. "So like, one of those chakra mutations?" she asked. Hiruzen scratched his chin in thought as he looked up at the ceiling. "Well, I think that's what he might have been aiming for, but it seems that instead it's done something with his Sharingan," the Hokage explained. Tsunade and Shibi were stunned quiet for a moment before a knocking was heard at the door, causing Hiruzen to straighten up as he nodded to Shibi. Shibi took a few short steps and opened the door silently, letting Iruka lead the way and followed by the children. "Ka-san!" Naruto exclaimed as he ran over to Tsunade, hugging her around the waist. Tsunade sighed in relief as she took a knee, hugging Naruto tightly right back as she relaxed. "Thank the log, I couldn't stand to lose you too," Tsunade thought protectively as she felt the Senju necklace press against her collarbone from its place around Naruto's neck. Naruto swallowed deeply as he felt the familiar tremor of holding and tears run through his mother's body. "Ka-san," Naruto thought with a fair bit of guilt as he tightly hugged her back. Tsunade stepped back as she stood tall again, though a hand didn't leave Naruto's shoulder as she turned back to face the Hokage. Following her ex-sensei's gaze, she immediately understood why he was quiet. Hinata looked at the ground quietly with a soft smile on her face as Shino and Naruto were embraced by their parents. "I'm glad their parents are here for them. It would hurt a lot if they were left alone after an ordeal like that," she thought, honestly happy for her friends while unknowingly sad at her own loneliness. "Hinata." The young girl looked up as the Hokage said her name, causing her to blush in embarrassment as she realized everyone was staring at her in her pajamas. "Why yes, Hokage-sama?" she asked timidly. The Hokage leaned forward as he watched her eyes. "Tell me, what would you rather, the life of a ninja? Or slavery in your clan?" he asked calmly. Hinata's eyes widened at his words. "Why?" she asked as she felt tears building up in her eyes. The Hokage kept a calming expression on his face as he spoke. "Your father, Hayashi, has expelled you from his clan for leaving the compound against his order for the last time. He believed that after your experience, you would only do good as a branch house slave, giving way for Hanabi to become clan head," Hiruzen explained, watching as Hinata's arms fell slack by her sides. "Right at this moment, you are being removed from the main house family, and you have 2 options that you need to sort out right now if you want to live under your own power," Hiruzen explained. Hinata stood in stunned silence for a moment, as stared at the Hokage for nearly a full minute. "Hinata," the Hokage said forcefully, causing her to look up at him again, "as of this moment, you are not part of the Hyuga clan. By tomorrow morning, you will be part of the Hyuga's branch family. As a ninja of the village, even a clan head needs your vocalized grant to become part of a clan. If you register as a ninja of the Leaf Village right now, you will be Hinata, Genin of the Leaf. No one but me would have direct influence over you," Hiruzen said as Hinata's eyes finally seemed to show realization. "Not even a clan head." Hinata was silent for a moment as she nodded slowly. Do I have a chance at becoming Genin before tomorrow?" she asked, her stutter nearly evaporated by the time she was done talking. Hiruzen smirked as he moved his hand, relaxing it on top of a new Konoha headband that sat on his desk. "Well, it is against the law for me to leave an unattended civilian alone when they have knowledge on a high-level ninjutsu, so either I let the genius that managed to learn an A-rank jutsu become a ninja under my watch, or I have her imprisoned for an unspecified time period," Hiruzen said as he lifted the headband towards Hinata. "Hinata of the Leaf, do you accept a position as Genin of our village?" he offered with a smile. Hinata began to smile softly as she took a step forward, but the moment her foot touched ground, she paused. "But what about Hanabi Muto-chan?" Hinata asked. Everyone paused at that. After a few moments, Shibi spoke up calmly. What is it that you are concerned about with your sister? He asked. Hinata chewed her bottom lip nervously. Tusan, he doesn't accept failure very well, and without me to be there, what if someone beats her in a training spar? Hinata asked, no more stutter evident in her voice. Hiruzen's brow furrowed. I'm not sure what exactly you mean, Hinata, but if you aren't part of that clan, you can't be persecuted by a clan for looking into an issue of child abuse. Hiruzen clarified. Hinata's eyes widened. Will I be protected by being a ninja of the village if I know things about the clan? She asked quietly. Hiruzen nodded yes, but only if you don't have the caged bird seal, am I right? He asked, wanting confirmation for a theory he'd agreed with upon hearing years before. Hinata nodded as she stepped forward towards the Hokage's desk again, the truth beginning to pour out of her. Yes, when branch members try to speak up or leave the clan, the elders of the main branch use it as a chance to show the younger generation how they basically enslave the branch family with the threat of pain and death. That's why she paused as she took a shaky breath. I hate the caged bird seal. Hinata nearly shouted suddenly, her tears pouring forth through her eyes. I hate my family for what they do to their cousins. I hate the clan for the separation and hatred they show each other, she said as she cried. I hate that my own father hurts everyone. I always have to play the weaker one between Hanabi and I, cause if she loses he'll hit her instead. I hate that the weakness I've had to hide behind made Kento want to hurt me, and I hate not being able to stop it. She shouted with rage and sorrow-filled tears pouring down her face. Naruto and Tsunade stared in shock as the usually quiet Hinata finally seemed to explode with everything she had kept bottled inside, but it seemed like this was the reaction Hiruzen had wanted or expected, since he was easily able to reply, then take this chance to stop it all, Hinata. Hiruzen's powerful voice rang out as he stood, looking down at Hinata with a glow of encouragement in his gaze. This is the first step that only you can take to end these harsh clan practices. This is one of the moments that defines your life, he said as he walked around the desk, kneeling so that he was at eye level with Hinata. Will you hide in the clan and be slave to the Hyuga? He asked as he placed a hand on her shoulder. Or will you be the light that saves them? Hiruzen asked as he lifted his other hand, holding out the headband in offering. Hinata placed her hand on the headband and smiled softly. Yes, she said in a slightly raspy voice after shouting for the first time she could even remember. I choose to be Hinata of the Leaf, not of the Hyuga. Hinata said with a slight smile towards the Hokage. The Hokage looked up at the nearly forgotten Irika. Irika, would you do the honors? After all, only a teacher can announce an official graduation into the ninja life, Hiruzen said. Irika blinked once before smiling from his place at the door. Hi Hokage-sama, Irika said as he took the headband from Hinata and began to wrap it around her forehead. I officially declare you a genin of the Leaf Village, Hinata, Irika said with his smile still in place as he stepped back. Hinata turned to Irika with a bright smile, teeth and all, as her shell of fear, quiet and sadness was all but shattered. Thank you, Irika-sensei, she exclaimed happily, her new headband tied firmly on her forehead. So you need a place to stay, right? Everyone in the office looked at Naruto as he finally stepped out of Tsunade's grasp and towards the ex-Hyuga as she stared at him with wide eyes. Don't you need a place to live now after the Hyuga clan house? He asked before looking up at Tsunade. I still have the spare room in my part of the house, Kasan. Can I offer it to Hinata? Naruto asked hopefully. Tsunade looked at Naruto with a smile, never able to deny him a thing and knowing that Hinata deserved to be treated better. Of course, she said, looking to Hinata with a smile, and I'll have Shizen take you shopping in the morning for some appropriate attire. If you want that is? Tsunade offered Hinata. Hinata looked between Naruto and Tsunade for a moment before nodding. Yes, that would be great, Hinata said, her smiling only growing larger in size. Hiruzen smiled as he stood. It's settled then, he said before clapping, bringing everyone's attention back to him. It's very late, so let's conclude this meeting for now, Hiruzen ordered. Shino looked up. And our incident reports, Hokage-sama? Shino asked. Hiruzen stroked his beard as he began walking back to his chair. True, well, I'll tell you what, by the time you each get your first mission, at which point of time I will see you in the mission hall, I would like a written report from each and every one of you detailing the entire incident, he said before looking up at Irika. But I'll have yours by tomorrow afternoon. As well as Mizuki's work desk at the academy brought here as well via sealing scroll, okay? Irika nodded. Hi Hokage-sama, he agreed. The third Hokage looked around the room one more time, taking in everyone's eyes as they felt the gravity of the situation. The Hyuga just lost some major power in the Leaf Village. Opening the door to his half of the house, Naruto stepped aside to allow Hinata to walk in past him. Welcome home, Hinata, Naruto said with a kind smile. Hinata looked over the small apartment-like area with a new look in her eyes. Home, she muttered with a sigh. Naruto frowned slightly as he watched Hinata stop a few steps into his place. He closed the door softly before looking at the clock on his wall, seeing it was nearing 2 in the morning. Tell you what, Hinata, I'll grab some of my smaller clothes that should fit you and leave them here, Naruto said as he crossed past Hinata, going to the first door visible from the doorway, right outside the bathroom door. Since the other room isn't set up yet, you can use my bedroom for the night since you'll need to be up early with Shizune-chan, he said as he gestured down the short hallway. I'll leave the light on for you, Naruto said with a kind smile. Hinata nodded before her shoulders began to shake. Naruto raised a brow before his medical training kicked in. The shock has worn off, she's about to break, Naruto realized as he stepped forward. Hinata collapsed to the side, getting caught by Naruto's strong arms before she came to a stop in his grip. She began to cry out her pain, everything that had penned up, her father, her clan, the incident with the late Kenta Hyuga. She let it all out. Naruto sat quietly as he enveloped his arms in medical chakra, the simple technique giving her a warm and comforting embrace as it began to amplify her brain's reading of her emotions, causing her to feel as much of the emotional pain she could handle in one massive push so that she could recover quicker. She sobbed. Naruto blinked and swallowed heavily as he tried to hold back his own tears. He could feel her pain as if it was oozing out of her and into him. The downside of being a medical ninja, empathy is the key to healing emotional problems, but in itself, the most painful for the healer, Naruto thought as he held her tight. Naruto closed his eyes as a single tear fell, waiting calmly. Nearly an hour passed before Hinata's breathing evened out and Naruto felt her go limp in his arms as she passed into sleep. Naruto sighed as he slowly maneuvered her into his arms and stood, holding her in a bear hug as he placed her gently on the couch nearby, resting her head on the armrest. Naruto sighed as he walked to his bedroom, opening the door quietly as he cleared his bed and set up the pillows for her. A few moments later, Naruto closed the door to his bedroom as he left her sleep before he walked to the adjoining door and sighed before yawning. Geez, this day sure was fun, Naruto thought sarcastically before looking up at the low light with a smirk as his blue Sharingan eyes spanned slowly. Then again, at least something good came out of it, Naruto thought with a light chuckle as he stepped out of the hallway and into the main house. Good, you're still up. Naruto looked over to his mother with a smile as he stepped out of the small hallway, seeing her on a large couch as leant against the armrest. Come here, don't think I'd miss that your eyes have changed, she ordered as she straightened up to give Naruto room. Naruto sighed as he moved over to the couch and lay down, resting his head on his mother's lap as he looked up at the ceiling and yawned. I made it today, Kase-san, I'm a genin now, Naruto said with a smile. Tsunade nodded with a smile. Yes you are, and one day you could become the world's greatest medic like I did, or maybe even Hokage like Sarutobi-sensei, she said as she placed her green glowing hand over his eyes, having him close them as she began to analyze them. Naruto scoffed. No way, Hokage? I don't really want that kind of responsibility, he said before sighing. Being a medical ninja is hard enough as it is, Naruto muttered. Tsunade's brow furrowed as she continued reading the chakra pathways in the eyes. What's so bad about being a medical ninja? She asked curiously. You've never shown a dislike of it before now, she said. Naruto smiled up at his mother, even with his eyes closed. Yeah, I know, it's just occurred to me since we've been back to the village my entire job is basically about dealing with everyone else's pain and problems, he said before yawning. And I'm not sure if I'm strong enough to deal with that, or even if I want to for that matter, he said tiredly. Tsunade's eyes widened, but not because of what he said. His eyes, both of them, have matching chakra pathways, the same pathways Shusui's eye had before, but there's 2 other chakra pathways stemming off from the original, and the biology is all Naruto. He just made a pure-blood Uzumaki Sharingan bloodline, but with something extra if the 2 extra pathways are anything to go by, she thought in wonder before trying to refocus on their conversation. Well, just because I'm a medical ninja doesn't mean you have to be. Naruto, tell me, what would your dream job be? She asked. Naruto smiled as he felt her chakra meld easier into his chakra network. Before, where it was an uncomfortable feeling, now it felt extremely calming. I think I'd want to be a ninja teacher, like maybe a Jonin sensei. Or maybe since I already can be a medic, I can eventually become a teacher for that. Or, he began with a shrug as he yawned again, maybe an academy instructor? Tsunade smiled softly. Little Naruto-chan always just wants to help others be stronger, she thought with a smile as she felt the fully repaired chakra pathways that she had come to associate with the Manjikyu Sharingan. It seems his Manjikyu might even be available with less damage being done to his eyes, she thought before she pulled her hands away, her examination coming to a close for the time being. Tsunade blinked as she noticed Naruto's still face. She smiled softly as she picked up a pillow from the side of the couch. She set it next to her head as she rested back and closed her own eyes, planning to join him in sleep for the night. Tsunade-sama? Naruto? Tsunade began to stir as Tsubaki called her name. She opened her eyes to see her new maid standing on the opposite side of the coffee table, 2 sets of a healthy breakfast sitting in front of her. As soon as the observation really settled in, Tsunade sat up with a jolt, shaking Naruto awake and causing him to slowly sit up with a groan. Naruto asked as he wiped his eyes from sleep. Tsunade cleared her throat as she looked around the top floor of their hillside house, seeing that the morning light had been pouring in the window for at least an hour. Right, morning Tsubaki, Tsunade said with a sleepy smile. Naruto turned to the coffee table at the same time Tsunade did, both to take a deep breath through their noses as the smell of the breakfast Tsubaki had made them hit their noses. Both mother and son blushed as their stomachs rumbled in unison, but that was quickly drowned out by Naruto burying his face in his meal. Tsunade smiled down at the food before looking up at Tsubaki, who had obviously been up and active for a few hours at least. Thanks Tsubaki, Tsunade said as she took her first mouthful. She glanced around the room and raised a brow. Where's Shizen? She asked after swallowing. Tsubaki smiled at Naruto and Tsunade's pleased expressions. She and Hinata went shopping about half an hour ago to find Hinata some suitable ninja wear. I would have left you two to rest, but, she paused with a glance at Naruto as he scarfed down another mouthful. Naruto has team assignments in an hour, and you received a black label letter this morning, Tsunade-sama, Tsubaki said. Not knowing what a black label letter meant in a ninja village, Naruto paid it no heed as his eyes shot towards a clock. I gotta get ready. Thanks for the awesome food, Tsubaki, Naruto exclaimed as he jumped up to his feet. Tsunade watched as Naruto came back for his last piece of bacon before sprinting back off, disappearing down the hallway in a blur as he rushed to get ready. Tsubaki chuckled slightly as she watched Naruto retreat to his room, but the atmosphere quickly became heavy as she turned back to Tsunade, seeing the Senju clan head looking down at the envelope in front of her with a frown on her face. The plain envelope had but 2 things on it, a single black stripe and the mark of the Hyuga clan head, causing Tsunade to sigh as the events from the day before finally caught up with her. I just took in the clan heir of the Hyuga clan, the daughter of a guy with a weird man crush on me, and an unsealed free Byakugan user. Tsunade thought with a sigh as she looked down at the envelope. Should have seen this coming. Opening the envelope, Tsunade began reading what she assumed would have been a threat of some kind for taking in Hinata, but she simply raised a brow as she began reading the letter to herself. Naruto threw his jacket on over his singlet as he looked down at his new ninja tools. He wore a medic belt around his hips, holding 3 pouches under his jacket that held all that was necessary for an advanced field medic but sacrificing a full ninja pouch with shuriken and seal tags. He now also had a kunai holster strapped to his left leg and secretly 2 storage seals stitched into the inside of his jacket sleeves. Better to be prepared for anything rather than unprepared for the random, Naruto thought to himself as he finished getting dressed and left his bedroom. A few minutes later, Naruto walked out his front door with a grin as the morning sun drenched over his form. He fastened his medic pack as he took the first few steps into the light and grinned up at it, the sunlight shining brightly off the hetai which he wore as a belt buckle like his mom used to when she was Genin. Looking ahead, Naruto's grin turned to a confident smirk as he began to march towards the academy. Life as a Konohagakure Genin, this is gonna be cool, Naruto thought to himself as he picked up his pace a little in excitement. It was some time later that Naruto actually focused on where he was going, and as he looked up, he got a shock at what, or rather who, he was seeing in front of him. Hinata blushed as she readjusted the forehead protector over her eyes, her Byakugan secretly activated underneath to help her not only train in it, but deceive all of her enemies into thinking she was disadvantaged by her lack of sight. She rather enjoyed having it active the whole time, especially since it made her feel more comfortable about the new clothes she was wearing, considering she could see way more of anyone else than they could see of her. Hinata's short blue hair was covered by the hood over her head, but her bangs were still visible over the headband that she wore proudly. The hoodie was sleeveless and a very dark orange that in a dark light would seem closer to brown. She appeared to not be wearing a shirt underneath it, since as it stopped above her belly button, everyone could see her bare skin showing and subsequently the scar that lead down to disappear underneath her pants. Hinata's blush increased as she saw Naruto basically checking her out as he walked in the gate, his eyes very much glued to the tight black material that was closer to tights than pants other than the pockets present on them. The only thing that had stayed the same was her ninja sandals. Shizen smiled as she saw Hinata smile in turn. So he's here somewhere, Shizen thought as she looked over to the gate, seeing Naruto turn towards them. Wow, those eyes of hers are really incredible, Shizen thought, still getting used to the idea of the Byakugan, let alone trying to understand just what she's seeing and interpreting. Hey Nei-chan, Hinata. How's the new threads? Naruto asked as he came to a stop in front of the two of them. Hinata? Hinata sighed as Kiba Inuzuka appeared between her and Naruto. It is you. What happened? Why are you dressed like some clanless bum? Kiba asked, thinking her clothes were about as far from Hyuga tradition as his own were. It was at this moment he realized her eyes were covered under the hood. And what happened to your eyes? He asked in a moment of worry. Hinata watched Kiba for a moment as she saw him stare at the bare skin she was showing on her tummy, and unfortunately, she saw his body's reaction to her appeal as well. Kiba, keep your eyes to yourself, please. I don't want your attention, Hinata said quite simply. Kiba's entire persona faltered as Naruto couldn't hold back the smirk that formed on his face. Wow, Hinata doesn't waste a moment for thought now. Naruto thought with a slight chuckle that brought Kiba's attention to him. Kiba turned to Naruto and scowled at him. Senju? What do you want? Kiba asked, only just realizing that he was there. Shizen glanced between Kiba, who was obviously trying to assert his Inuzuka dominance, and Naruto, who looked like he wanted to see the situation resolve, and sighed. Nope, I'm needed at the ANBU facilities, it'll just be a bother to watch this unfold, she thought before placing a hand on Hinata's shoulder. Hinata looked up at her with a smile. Thank you for this morning, Shizen-san. I've never had girl time before, Hinata said happily. Shizen nodded and smiled. Anytime, Hinata-chan, I had real fun, Shizen said, being honest as she truly did enjoy playing dress-up with someone like Hinata. After all, she had a body type that fit most styles of dress. Shizen placed a hand on Naruto's shoulder as she walked past, causing Kiba to look up at her, as did Naruto. I'll see you later, Naruto-chan. You make sure that you're careful, okay? She said. Naruto grinned up at her. Got it, Nei-chan, he promised with a nod. With that, Shizen left calmly, though she took one more glance at Kiba as she felt his gaze on her as she walked away. Geez, for a kid he certainly doesn't seem to think like one. Back at the trio of Genin, Naruto went to address Hinata, but Kiba stood between them as he repeated his earlier question. What do you want, Senju? Can't you see Hinata-chan and I have some things to talk about? He asked rhetorically as he took a step back, about to place a hand on Hinata's waist. Naruto's eyes widened. Oh, one should never unexpectedly approach or touch someone that's been through what Hinata has, especially a creeper like Kiba, Naruto thought as he was about to intervene. Crack! Kiba shouted in pain as he nursed his pinky finger, which was suddenly bent in a very, very wrong way. Kiba stared at it for a moment, and opened his mouth as he was about to scream. Naruto's hands moved quickly, one to Kiba's mouth to cover his shout and one green glowing hand to crack his finger back into place and heal it, causing Kiba to blink owlishly as he watched his finger morph back into the right shape with no pain. Kiba, Hinata said, bring the dog boy's gaze up to her headband, causing him to feel unsettled as she seemed to look right through him. I told you before and this is the last time I'll say it again. I don't want your attention, Hinata said with an emotionless voice. Kiba swallowed deeply and nodded. Holy shit, she's become a total badass babe, Kiba said as he openly stared at her. Naruto sighed as he let go of his finger while Hinata scowled at Kiba. Let's just go to class, okay guys? Naruto asked with a soft smile as the morning bell went off, normally signifying class starting. But today, it meant team assignments. Alright, Iruka said as he looked over the room full of freshly graduated Genin. Today is your first day as Genin and as such, it's my duty to inform each of you of the teams you've been placed on as well and if requested, your place in the class's final grade. Iruka said with a smirk, knowing from tradition that most would want to know. The class sat in quiet excitement, many of them wanting to know if they managed to get in the top circle of Genin, and hopefully get a better teacher for the next portion of their ninja careers. Now Team 1 will be, Iruka began, going down his list of people on the clipboard in front of him. Time passed slowly as the first 6 teams were called out, and many people requesting their scores, some earning a little embarrassment, while others swelled with pride as they found themselves in the top 10. Team 7, Iruka began again as he smiled, seeing the names, Sasuke Uchiha, Naruto Senju and Hinata. Iruka said, his smile sliding slightly as he noticed that Hinata's name lacked the Hyuga. Wait! Many people turned to Ino and Sakura as their yell nearly shattered glass. Sensei! Why does she get to be on Sasuke's team? She didn't even come to the exams. Ino shouted. Sakura nodded in agreement as she looked around the room, unable to recognize Hinata from her place next to Naruto in the back row. Where is she anyway? Sakura asked, wanting something to spend her anger on. Iruka sighed in exasperation, but Sasuke managed to grab everyone's attention as he spoke. Sensei, my ranking? He asked with no discernible emotion on his face or in his voice. Iruka's face moved into a slightly nervous smile. Sasuke, well, you came second, Iruka said. The class was quiet at that for a moment as Sasuke turned and glared across the classroom at Naruto, who was looking curiously at Iruka since he was supposed to be listening. Who came first? Sasuke demanded. Iruka scratched the back of his head. Now the person who came first hasn't asked for their score to be read out, Sasuke. I can't give that information away so easily, Iruka said apologetically. Naruto stood as he looked around, not knowing where Sasuke's usual spot was since he was new. Hey Sasuke, wanna come sit with Hinata and me? Naruto asked with a smile once he spotted Sasuke. Sasuke's glare withered as it seemed to have literally no impact on Naruto. Either he thinks he's better than me or he's actually glad we're on a team, Sasuke thought before he realized something. He had already stood and begun walking. Sasuke came to a stop at the desk before taking a seat in the empty chair next to Hinata, leaning back as he rested his feet on the table to look up at the roof. Though he was trying to act casual, he was trying to think of a way to find out if Naruto was the one to have beaten him. Ano, Iruka-sensei? What was my score? Everyone in the class turned to the hooded figure between Sasuke and Naruto as Hinata looked up from resting her head on her crossed arms. The class was mostly silent as almost no one realized who it was. Iruka smiled sadly up at Hinata. Sorry Hinata, but cause of the circumstances of your passing you didn't actually get a passing grade, so unfortunately you got the lowest score of the class, Iruka said. Sakura seemed to pounce on the opportunity to make her seem better than Hinata. Ha! Stupid dead last, she said as she pointed at Hinata. Sakura. The class was quiet again as Sakura turned to Sasuke with wide eyes. He's addressing me? Just me? Sakura thought with a dreamy smile. Talk to my team like that again and I'll burn you. Rather than letting the classroom explode again, Iruka quickly clapped his hands to get everyone's attention as Sakura froze, an emotional breakdown becoming more and more imminent with each passing second. So Naruto, want to know your ranking? Iruka asked before realizing that this redirect might not have been his best. Naruto smiled and nodded. Okay, did I get in the top 10? Naruto asked politely. Iruka nodded. Yes actually, turns out you got number 1, he said, letting that sink in for a moment. Naruto is Rookie of the Year. As if that was the last straw, everyone in the classroom burst into questions. How Sasuke was beaten, how Hinata had passed, how Naruto got number 1 after only a week in the academy, even though Iruka clearly said that the final grade was reliant solely on the final exams. Iruka sighed as he looked around the classroom, realizing he had lost complete control over the kids that bombarded the silent Sasuke and Hinata with questions as Naruto tried to answer them all, realizing his teammates didn't want to. Oh screw it. I only really had to inform them of the teams and scores, Iruka thought with a sigh as he turned to his blackboard and picked up a piece of chalk. A few minutes after he began writing, he placed the chalk down and came to the realization that the room was mostly quiet behind him. Turning around, Iruka raised a brow as he noticed 3 things. 1. Every girl was glaring between Hinata and Sasuke. 2. Shino seemed to be the only one in the room standing, and 3. Almost everyone in the room seemed to have more than just a few bugs on their faces. Iruka blinked as Shino brought a single finger to his lips. Shh, he whispered gently. Iruka merely blinked again before a knock was heard on the door and a group of Jonin walked in. Team 1, with me, a sickly-looking Jonin said before walking back out the door. As the next few teams began to leave, Ino looked up at the board to see that Iruka had written the last few teams up as well as their sensei. I'm stuck with Fat Ass and the Lazy Bum? She shouted. Shikamaru and Choji sighed as Shikamaru turned to his friend. Told you she wouldn't have noticed it before, Shikamaru muttered. Ino's outburst made Sakura look up for her name as well before a horrified look came over her face. I got the stinky dog and bugba, she screamed. Sakura. The pinkette turned to Shino as the boy readjusted his glasses, giving Sakura a view of his kaleidoscope eyes. Sit down, Shino ordered. Sakura, a girl with an extreme fear of bugs, sat down quickly and silently as anime tears poured from her face. Naruto nodded as he read from the board as well. Interesting, so the person who came last gets put with the 2 best to balance a team, and the same repeats throughout the top 10 and subsequently the worst 5 before the last 15 are mixed around in subsidized groups, Naruto said calmly. Hinata and Sasuke both looked at him with a raised brow. Clunk. The 3 of them looked over to the door in unison to come to the same conclusion as they were left behind in the now empty room. Our sensei is late. Tsunade sighed as she entered her new office in the hospital. After only half a week of work at the hospital, it was obvious that the standards of medical care had fallen in the few years she was absent, and as she began to prove so, she proved that she was still more than capable of running the ICU department. So here she was, just over a week into her job as one of the 3 alternating head doctors of the ICU unit in the Hidden Leaf Village's hospital. And fuck was there a lot of idiots. Tsunade frowned as she fell into the plushy chair behind her desk, looking down at the folder of her last patient for the day, managing to ignite a fire chakra inside the lungs, but didn't release it before it took form of a flame. Idiot burned the inside of his lungs and would have died if it wasn't for that weirdo genin medic. Tsunade thought before leaning back and closing her eyes for the moment. Long day, Tsunade? Tsunade's eyes snapped open as she looked at the person standing in the corner of her office. Jiraiya? She asked in shock. The Toad Sage stepped out of the shadows with a grin on his face that was so big that his eyes were shut. That's me. Sorry I missed the dinner the other night, Jiraiya said as he walked calmly into the center of the room. Tsunade sighed again as she sat forward. That was last week, moron. You really messed up, she said. Jiraiya raised a brow. Huh? Why did I mess up? Jiraiya asked. Tsunade looked up at Jiraiya with an angry but obviously exhausted glare. Cause on that night Sarutobi and I had a little talk concerning who Naruto's godparents were, and since Mikoto is gone, that left only his godfather there to look after him, Tsunade said as she stood to her feet, her hands clenched tightly. But where was he again? Oh yeah, writing porn for money, Tsunade said angrily as she punched through her desk in anger, breaking it in half and clearing a path for her to walk through. Jiraiya blinked with wide eyes as he stepped back. Hey, let me explain here. It wasn't my fault. Sarutobi-sensei said that Naruto can't leave the village yet, and then I had to go set up my spy network throughout the elemental nations, Jiraiya said in panic. Tsunade scowled as she walked past Jiraiya. I know everything you really got up to, Jiraiya, she said as she slapped him in the chest with a yellow envelope. And you have a lot to make up for, she said as she paused at his side. Jiraiya looked at the envelope in confusion as he began to open it, only to find 2 columns named penance and crime side by side down the page along with a paragraph down the bottom from their sensei. Jiraiya, I am ashamed that you shirked your duties as a godfather in favor of leering on the women of the 5 elemental nations. You have used your status to get into places and do illegal activities. As much as I hate to do this, it's the only way I can be certain about your actions at this point in time. For each crime that I could report you for, you shall do the village one favor specifically for people of this village, or the village itself. If you refuse, pack your bags and start running. Looking forward to seeing you at the first task. Hiruzen Sarutobi. Jiraiya was about to be stunned and furious as he read the paragraph to its final word, but before he could say anything out loud about it, Tsunade cut him off. Before you begin to bitch, look at the first few acts of penance and make your decision, she said, pointing to the first line of words and walking away. Jiraiya blinked olishly as he read the first task, chill with the Hokage on the next available Saturday for his day off. Teach a team of Naruto clones weekly? Teach a 3-lesson course that's full prep for female Jonin seduction missions? Jiraiya read questioningly yet hopefully in his mind as blood began to leak from his nose. Tsunade nodded as she watched Jiraiya begin to get lost in his daydream, tapping him on the forehead protector to get his attention as she walked past. Focus, idiot. Most of these aren't that bad, though a few will be time-consuming, she said before opening the door back into the main part of the hospital. How about we go get started on number 4? Don't expect anything sincere, you perv, and you're picking up the check, Tsunade said as she walked out the door. Jiraiya blinked as he looked down at number 4 on his list. Take Tsunade out on at least 5 dates. Whether it be as friends or something more, you both need to talk, Jiraiya read out loud. Jiraiya looked up and out the open doorway, seeing Tsunade looking at him with a blank expression, one that Jiraiya was familiar with. Dear Log, what has her this pained? It's not really about me ditching the kid, is it? Rock. Paper. Scissors, Team 7 exclaimed as they thrust their hands out. Oh damn, Naruto said with a fake frown, having fun testing Hinata and Sasuke's reactions to his subtle mind analysis techniques, such as rock, paper, scissors. Sasuke smirked as he and Hinata turned to one another, both of them holding out their hands as Naruto tried to predict their movements. Sasuke will pick rock again, but this time Hinata will too. Then next turn Sasuke will go scissors and Hinata will lose with paper, Naruto predicted, smirking as what he was guessing began to unfold in front of him. Naruto raised a brow as Hinata surprised him by picking rock a 3rd time. Hinata wins, Naruto said with a grin. Sasuke scowled before leaning back and shrugging. Big deal, it's just rock, paper, scissors, he grumbled. Creak. The 3 genin turned their heads in unison as the door to the classroom opened, letting a gray-haired Jonin walk in. Hello, Team 7? Kakashi asked with an eye smile. Sasuke stood immediately. That's us, he said confidently. Kakashi looked him up and down before pointing at Sasuke. Too emo, he said before his finger pointed at Hinata. Too blind, he said before pointing at Naruto. Too ugly. Kakashi said calmly before turning away. Meet you on the rooftop. Poof. It took a few moments for Kakashi's words to register in their minds, but when they did, Naruto jumped to his feet angrily. Hey, what the hell? Naruto shouted before leaping to the door of the classroom. Turning back to his team with a grin. Race ya up there, he said before stepping out of the door. Naruto chuckled as he instantly heard the two people behind him get to their feet. So the key for this team is to give Sasuke a challenge to spur him on to be stronger and to give Hinata the opportunity to prove herself now that she's stopped holding herself back. I wonder how strong she'll grow without the oppression of her clan hanging over her, Naruto thought to himself as he dashed up the stairs. Pushing open the doors to the rooftop, Naruto paused as he spotted their new sensei sitting on the rail opposite him. A second or so later, Sasuke and Hinata stopped at his sides, staring at Kakashi as he opened his single eye. Ah, hello you three, come take a seat, Kakashi said, waving them over casually. Naruto frowned as he marched over to Kakashi. I don't know what's up with this guy, but as long as I can get these two to have a friendly rivalry between them, they'll grow strong together, and hopefully help me to do the same, Naruto thought as he arrived in front of their new sensei, taking a seat to Sasuke's left as Hinata sat beside him. Kakashi glanced over the group with a bored expression in his eye before it rested on Hinata. So, tell me a little about yourselves, guys. Hinata blinked. What should I say? She asked. Kakashi shrugged. You know the usual, your names, likes, dislikes, dreams and stuff, Kakashi explained. Naruto cut in, wanting to know more about their sensei. Why don't you show us how it's done, sensei? Kakashi held his chin and thought as he looked up at the sky. Well, let's see, my name is Kakashi Hatake. I like some things and dislike other things. Yeah, he muttered before pointing at Hinata. You go. Hinata blinked behind her headband, casually taking a glance of Sasuke and Naruto's expressions simultaneously as they focused on her. My name is Hinata of the Leaf. I like the chance that I've been given by being expelled from the Hyuga clan. I dislike the harsh practice of clan separation. My dream is to save my sister and everyone else from the horror that the main branch. Hinata paused as she realized she didn't know what to say. And I want to have a real family with someone, she said, not even realizing her words until they were out before she looked down sadly. Kakashi blinked at Hinata's introduction. Okawe, this is interesting. When did she leave the Hyuga? He thought before glancing at the next in line. Naruto. Okay, Blondie, you're up.